Hello, ladies and gentlemen, in the spaced out radio world. My name is Dave Scott. Christmas has arrived. Now, for some of you, you will have got that remote control shiny new toy. For others, you got yourself a pair of slacks and socks. That's literally the way it breaks down. There is no other way. As the DNI released the UFO report today, we got one hell of a panel for you tonight. We have Victor Viggiani out of Toronto and Zealand Communications. Nicole Sakach is here. We have Science Bob, Tom Whitmore, Lynn Wallington, myself. We are going to be joined later by Stephen Bassett. We're awaiting him. And later on in the show, Melinda Leslie will be here as well. To me, this is one of the top panels that we could ever put together on this show regarding UFOs and what has gone on in the last 10 hours or so. I don't know if you're excited. I've been pumped up all day. I actually printed out the report. I've got it all here. I've got it all highlighted and noted out. We are going to go ballistic on this. Hey, let's give a rundown of everybody who is here so far. Troy Kluche taking home the gold medal tonight. We have Race Fan in silver, the gorgeous Steph Dickey taking home the bronze. We have the Alaska's greatest athlete, the gorgeous Emily Bigelow here. SJ, Pat Breeze, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Winter Soldier, welcome to our chat room for the first time. Hi, Anthony and Solar Warden, Sultry Susie, Jack Clark, Lee, welcome. John Swan, good to see you back, my friend. The gorgeous Jenny Metz is here, everyone. Give her a wave. She likes a wave back. Andrew is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. Hi, Stephen Edmond. Good to see you. Higher Vibration Jenny, nice to have you back. Thank you for coming on in. As we scroll on down here, Rock the Gaspar will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio. You got Andrew on the right, Rock the Gaspar on the left. The gorgeous Cosmic Floor has returned. Joshua, nice to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Michael Smith, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate that. Fast Hemi, Aaron, how are you? Good to see you. Nicholas, Scott Brown, thanks for coming on in. Jurassic Joey, the gorgeous Jenny, how are you? Hi, Denise, Travis DeLuca, and the lovely Anne Celine are here. Sassy Sandra, Ibarata, the gorgeous Alicia is back. Thank you for coming on in. Really appreciate that. And Troy, thank you so much for the super chat as well. The gorgeous has returned. Go 66 and Logan, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Spookles, the awesome cat. Much love to you, my friend. You are an important part of our team here, and we love you here. Oumuamua, Brett Lewis is here, which means you can officially start the show. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime, thanks for coming on in. Robert Moore, thank you for joining us. Science Bob, thank you for that super chat. You didn't need to do that, but thank you so much, my friend. Boom to you, Bama. Project Blue Book, good to see you. The Luscious Jules and Jeff Steve Garvey are here. Scott Taylor and Open-Minded Clarity, thanks for coming on in. Jose, good to have you here. Aaron Hinton, pardon me, thanks for joining us. And John Bowlerman, good to see you. Duke Nukem, welcome back to the show. I am Pam. The gorgeous I am Pam, right here. Anyways, thank you for coming. Armando, how are you, my friend? Rooted in gorgeous sacredness. Good to see you. Mondak, thanks for coming on in. I Rock Bonanov and the lovely and talented Christy Bergen. Thank you for joining us. Ian Herndon, thank you for coming on in. Joey Hayes, Focus, and Oscar. Good to have you all here. Awesome Anthony Svensson, thank you for joining us. And as we scroll on down here, Molotov, John Poe, good to see you guys. Thank you for joining us. Sally, thank you for that incredible super chat. Really do appreciate that. Much love to you, and thank you for helping out Spaced Out Radio. Grandmaster, the Manitoba Becky is here. Yes, the pride of Brandon. She is a wheat queen. Yes, she is a wheat queen. Northern UFOs, good to have you here, my friend. And let's see, who am I missing here? The lovely and talented Jessica McCreary. Adam Silberg Swag, welcome to the show. Welcome to our chat room. Gary, I'm hoping you're going to be in the chat room all night. You and Filth, we may need some wrenches here if you don't mind. HL Westlake, good to see you. Steve Stockton from KPNL, nice to have you here. Evil Carl and the greatest name in YouTube history, Dry Toast. Friendly AI, nice to have you here. Stu Gerson, right there, my friend. Thank you for joining us. And I think there's Major Lee, Jan Yannick, Magnus, Golden Lee A. Thank you for joining us. BBD Warrior, good to see you. Hello, Gloria from Casual Conversation. I think I got your name right. Anyway, Stu Pot, good to have you here. And you know what? We're going to get going here in 25 seconds. Ibarata, thank you so much for that super chat. Really do appreciate that. And Andrew, thank you as well. And we're going to get going here in about 20 seconds, everyone. I will give a shout out to you in the chat room. Hi, gorgeous Kira, Mark Salzman, Mortimer James. Good to see you all. And we got one hell of a panel here for you. We are going to rock and roll momentarily. This is the night we have been waiting for. If you are not pumped up for this in the UFO world, you're not living. Let's go right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, it's finally here. The big moment we have all been waiting for. For many of us, we have waited over 6 months for this. That doesn't seem like a long time, but for us in the UFO world, it has been a bloody eternity. It really has. The UFO report was finally dropped. There was some debate on whether or not this report was actually going to come out. How big was it going to be? How small was it going to be? How much redacted would it be? Well, we have the report, the unclassified report. And I can tell you this, there's some highlights, there's some lowlights, and there are some no lights, if you want to put it that way. We're going to be talking about this all night long because this is a report that literally starts the ball rolling on absolutely everything moving forward on ufology today. We are joined right now by a bunch of people who have come along. We are waiting for two others. We're waiting for Stephen Bassett. We are waiting for Melinda Leslie to come on in a later time. And I will say this, we are proud to have Victor Viggiani from Zealand Communications, Nicole Sakach, researcher extraordinaire and one fine cook. Science Bob McGwier is here, Tom Whitmore from MUFON, and my Saturday night host, Lynn Wallington, is here. And everyone, I want to say a big thank you for all of you taking time out to come around on this show. We really do appreciate it because it is a very, very important night. And Bob, because you have ties to the United States government in your former time in history, I want to get your start right off the bat with the preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena.
Preliminary, denoting an action or event preceding or done in preparation for something fuller or more important. This is the first of many. That's number one. Number two, name another time in history where the United States government got up in front of the world from the number one intelligence community person, Avril Haines, who answers directly to the President of the United States and the National Security Advisor, and says, we have things flying through our air and space, which we don't know what they are, but they're not ours. And we don't really think they're the Russians or the Chinese, but we're not quite sure yet. But this is their preliminary assessment. This was a big deal, no matter how much people wanted to hear that we have aliens, alien bodies from Roswell.
You sound very positive about it.
Yeah, because it's preliminary. We know that other things will happen. More stuff is coming.
Let's bring in Victor Viggiani. And Victor, later on in the show, I want to kind of get you and I being the token Canadians on this panel. I want to get the Canadian perspective of this a little bit later on. But when you read the report, you're somebody who's been an activist in this field for well over 30 years and pushing hard for this type of report to come out. You've challenged the governments in the US and in Canada to let it know. What is your opinion of what's gone down? Let me get you unmuted here. Victor, we need you to unmute before we can bring you on.
I had it on mute there. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, with what we just heard, it's really kind of important that we put this in a complete and total context of what we've been through for the past 60 years. It seems that somehow forces of the cosmic powers that be have allowed us to get to this point tonight, because the last 60 years have been literally like trudging through mud and going through a process of derision and obfuscation and lies, and you name it. It's been happening for the past 60 years. And then all of a sudden, what I call 2017 as the beginning of the New Testament of this. Everything that happened before 2017 was the Old Testament and what we call the old-fashioned ufology. And I don't like that word, but I'll use it for now. But 2017 happened with the Blumenthal, Cooper, and Kane report within the New York Times. The ball went into another court. We began the New Testament after 2017. And after that, everything started to happen. And now we are in a position, because of what the New York Times did and what Blumenthal, Kane, and Cooper did, we are seeing the results of their hard work as journalists. That's the first point that I want to make in bringing that forward to the general public. That's the first thing that I want to mention. Then after that, all of the revelations that came after 2017 became part and parcel of the number of bricks that were knocked down, literally disassembled with respect to the UFO cover-up. Right now, the UFO cover-up, the wall of secrecy that Stephen Bassett will probably talk about later on with the truth embargo, the wall of secrecy has been crushed. There's a hole in the wall of secrecy that you can drive a bloody truck through right now. And that's where we stand. And I'm so fortunate to be part of that, because I really, to be honest with you, never thought I'd see this day. I anticipated it. I wanted it. We all wanted it. But right now we see here in Canada, as part of the North American kind of franchise with respect to UFO research, we see this happening before our very eyes. Now, the report itself, I wasn't really overly overwhelmed by anything that was in it. I don't think anybody really was. But we have to admit that the acknowledgement that existed today, that came forward to us, with us, and for us today, was the hugest step that could ever have been taken with respect to ending the truth embargo. And you criticize it for whatever you want to do, dark lights, bright lights, and everything like that. But the fact of the matter is, the United States government acknowledged that UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, craft of unknown origin, are in fact real. And that is a major, huge step forward. And now whatever comes next is going to be gravy. And I think we're going to be getting into that discussion a little bit later on as to what comes next. We can't look behind us anymore. We have to continue to look forward as to how we can pressure government, military, and entities and the media to express their concerns about how prescient this situation is right now, because we are in fact living history. And I congratulate you, Dave, for bringing on all these wonderful guests to talk about this, because we are in fact becoming part of history right now. So that's my take on it. I don't want to be negative about the report at all. It fell short. We all kind of realize that. But the fact of the matter is, it came forward and acknowledged this whole issue of the UAP reality. Now, the next step is using the E word.
Yes, that's the big one.
If the government can get their act together to actually eliminate the Chinese as a function of technology, eliminate the Russians as a function of technology, and eliminate their own technology, and then begin to use the possibility of the E word, then we'll be off to the races. And then after that, you know what's going to happen? There will be hearings within the congressional component of the United States. That's the next step as far as I'm concerned.
All right, let's bring in Tom Whitmore here from MUFON on the board of directors, good friend of this show. And Tom, I know you and I have talked back and forth about this quite privately, what was going to be happening coming up to this date. And here we are, my friend. Here we are. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that this has come out. It is a step forward. It's undeniable. We're moving in the right direction. However, I'm much more pessimistic about certain components of the report because I'm noticing several internal contradictions. For example, they were making a case that UAP or UFOs present a safety hazard to our pilots and to our military personnel. And they noted in the report that they were looking at information from 2004 to 2021. And yet they haven't had an actual system of studying it until 2019. So are they saying that they spent 15 years knowing that this was a risk to our pilots and doing nothing about it? That's one contradiction I see. Another contradiction I've seen is they stated in the report that they were unable to verify if this was U.S. technology that was being tested. Are you telling me that the Director of National Intelligence, who reports directly to the president and has the authority to gather any and all intelligence from any and all intelligence agencies, can't determine whether the technology is ours or not? They can't go to the special access programs and find out. My third point is that they're using this Russian and Chinese issue as a cover. Are you going to tell me that if this technology is Russian or Chinese, that they don't know about it? I mean, if a Russian plane gets anywhere close to one of our ships or any of our planes, they know exactly where it is. So those are some things that I noticed in the report.
All right, Stephen Bassett, what did you get up to today? Anything special? We'll get you to unmute your mic, Steve. If you don't mind, just go by your picture and unmute your mic on the screen there. Right on your picture, right at the bottom, if you don't mind. Okay, while we're waiting for... Oh, there we go. Now we got you.
Look, I've got a little different take on this. Probably that doesn't shock anybody. Let me see if I can get this up big. Oh, there it is. And I'm gonna have to pedal out here to the report. There's a lot in this report of great material if you're a stand-up comedian. But it's exactly what I expected. First of all, it's not a report. It's a preliminary assessment. It is not what they asked for. I said, well, okay, well then what's going on here? Well, if you read to the appendix, in the appendix B, they actually list what the report was supposed to be. Now, there's an implication here that maybe the report will follow. That is possible. But I'm going to say no. You see, they can't produce that report. There is a lot of reasons why it is an absolute nightmare for the Department of Defense to produce a fairly in-depth analysis of how they're dealing with the ET issue recently and somehow not mentioned how they dealt with it in the previous 70 years or 65 years. And there's evidence of that even in the assessment, which is kind of funny, and I'll mention that in a second. In other words, it's just, there's no way they could do this without looking really bad. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as we approach the deadline, you may or may not be aware of this, but something went down between Luis Elizondo and the Department of Defense. Suddenly, he felt that actions being taken within the DOD by certain people was so severe that he had to hire Danny Sheehan as his lawyer, an ultra progressive lawyer who has, before they bankrupted his Christic Institute and forced him to leave, drove the government crazy in some of the biggest cases, and confronted the DOD directly with issuing, I forget what you call it, challenges. So something was going on over there. And it's not clear exactly what it is, but the sense is that he didn't like what they were doing and there was an issue. And so that was happening. And I happen to think that what it was is that as we approach the deadline, those in the Department of Defense who bitterly resent the fact that this embargo is ending sort of try to make a last-ditch effort here, something to muck up the works. But in any event, they put out this preliminary system. In other words, they made the deadline. They knew they couldn't extend it because that would have been a real problem. And there'd been a lot of blowback on that, particularly from media, social media. And so they produced an assessment. It's 9 pages. You know, it's not much at all. But they got it out in the deadline. And they probably negotiated that with the Intel Committee. Now, what am I getting at here? What Rubio wanted, what the Intel Committee needed, was something from the DOD that gave them the cover they need to call for hearings on the UAP issue. Now, if you read the report, you'll notice that in these 9 pages, of which 2 are an appendix, and then you got a cover, so it's basically 6 pages, the word threat is used 7 times. The phrase national security is used 5 times. It's all over this assessment. Now, and by the way, if you may note that they stated that the report was delivered to the Intel and Armed Service Committees of the Congress. In other words, the 2 Intel committees and the 2 Armed Service Committees directly got the report. That's who it went to, all 4 of them. These are the 4 primary committees that would take these hearings. So they said that, all right? So what these committee chairs need is I'm going to take the risk to bring in military witnesses to address the EP issue in depth. It's got to be for national security reasons. And just having Chris Mellon and some witnesses come up and talk to me is not enough. I need something from the DOD, something more specific. And so he calls for this report and he gets back what he needs. So he doesn't get back a full report because I think a lot of people of the DOD had said, look, Marco. And I assure you, Marco Rubio knows that the government's been engaging this issue for 74 years. He is a smart guy. Believe me, he doesn't think that, they just started investigating with an ATIP program. He knows about Blue Book. He knows about Sign. He knows about Grudge. He knows that there's a truth embargo underway. What they're trying to do is get out from under that truth embargo. And the way out from under has to be through hearings. And in order to get hearings, you've got to have a basis which will play. And that's national security. And that has been well established. But they needed something extra, and they've just got it. That's all they need. So, as I put out to my colleagues, I have a private colleague list of about 100. Who wants to bet on the over-under on how many days from today Marco Rubio or Mark Warner, or as they are often called, the Marx brothers, call for hearings before the Senate Intel Committee on the UAP issue and its national security implications? Anybody want to take that bet?
No.
4 days, 5 days? What do we get?
Science Bob will.
Okay, Science Bob.
August.
Oh, that's cool. That's tough. Okay, August, Science Bob. Anybody else got a play on this?
I
That's
would,
about, what's that? That's like, okay, I'll count that as 36 days. Nobody else?
no, I wouldn't say it would be before Christmas, Steve. It could be in the new year.
I'm going to say shortly after the 4th of July.
That early.
Wow.
Now, after the 4th of July. They leave tonight on a much-earned, well-deserved vacation, or not vacation, but what do they call it when they go back to their state?
Recess.
They recess. Yeah, they've earned this recessed because they actually passed a bill, at least in the House, and that's like huge, massive. And they're going to chill. It won't take long for them to review the assessment. You know, so that'll be easy. And then the question is when to call for hearings. Now think about this for a second. When Rubio put the 180-day limit on this thing, or the essentially what amounted to the delivery date, because they weren't going to come in early, why did he do that? Was he just trying to give them enough time? How much time did they need to write a 7-page with appendix assessment? He did it because he knew, first of all, he knew the bill wouldn't be signed in December, so that would put the deadline around June 25, as it is. And he wasn't running for Congress, so he had no risk there. And it would be in the new administration. If it was Trump, anything could happen, a lot of flexibility. But if it wasn't, then probably things were going to move ahead. But what he did is exactly what happened, what he wanted. In those 180 days, the media coverage built and built and built and built and built. I know that because I have it all archived. I just crossed the 1,000 article threshold. And these are all earmarked in red if you go there, of articles related to the launch of the TTSA, the New York Times articles, and all the subsequent follow-up things that sprung from that. It's now crossed the 1,000 threshold. But it's also built up all this expectation in the public, social media. You've seen it. Podcast, post. It's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Excellent. That's what you want to do. If you're going to hold hearings, you need that. You need the press on your side. You need the public wanting it. And the chair goes, we're holding hearings, and the people go, huzzah, right? And it's nonpartisan. Marco Rubio has gotten the best press that he's had in probably 4 years. And when a senator, a particularly Republican senator, gets good press, this is practically a momentous occasion. You don't think he had a liking that? You don't think he isn't going to run for president? I think he's planning to ride the UAP issue into the White House. And so when you do that, and then the report comes in, and then it leaks out, yeah, we're thinking probably should do something, maybe the fall. We'll hold hearings, maybe December, maybe next year. What do you think the response is going to be in social media? They're going to barbecue him and the entire Intel committee over a slow fire. All hell will break loose. And so it has to be soon. He has no choice. So I'm saying a few days after October, if anybody wants to beat that, you still could put it before, not October, a few days after July 4th. You could go for July 2. It's very possible. He has nothing to lose by calling for early hearings. By the way, one of the key members of Congress, Andre Carson, who was on like 4 different committees that are very important to this issue, Armed Services and Science and Technology. It's a fantastic resume. This guy is a heavy-duty hitter. Andre got ahead of his skis about, a week ago, and he told the press, yeah, we're going to hold hearings on this report. Did anybody see that comment?
Yep. Okay.
So what do you think, right? We're going to hold hearings on this report, but maybe next year. In fact, think about this. These hearings are going to be watched by, I don't know how many millions of people. Pick a number, 200 million, 300 million. How many people do you think are going to go, I don't want to watch that? Now, there's going to be some witnesses talking about that stuff under oath, military guys. Nah, I don't really want to watch that. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones reruns, whatever the hell. No.
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. Stephen Bassett, Victor Viggiani, Nicole Sakach, Bob McGwier, Tom Whitmore, Lynn Wallington. We're all here talking the UFO report on Spaced Out Radio.
Do we have to mute? I guess
all right. We already have 307 people watching here already.
Oh.
Thank you so much. And there's a bunch on Twitter and Twitch as well. I just want to remind you that if you're new to this show, I want to remind you that we are a live radio show. We are not a YouTube broadcast. So that's the reason why we are going to a commercial break, because we have to time everything out with our commercial radio affiliates that we have on Spaced Out Radio. So you guys watching YouTube or Twitch or listening on Spreaker, you guys have the ability to actually hear the behind the scenes stuff that we will be talking about. So I just don't want to be catching anybody off guard here wondering what's going on and why does the show stop? Why are you guys all of a sudden taking a break? That's kind of what's going on. So panel, just wanted to get that in there with everybody.
We're enjoying watching Bassett break everything.
What you're saying, Dave, is that you're just in this for the money. Okay, you're going to commercials, you're selling stuff. You're in this for the money. You're making money off this issue. That is so wrong.
Apparently it is. Apparently, shame on me.
Give me some time. I can get your audience down to 120. We can do that.
Oh, Steve. Oh, what a piece of work.
Can I ask
I'm really broken up about this report, right? I mean, it's just crushed me.
I can
tell.
So disappointed. You're so pumped. It's not the government admitted things are real. Yeah, Tom, what's up?
I heard, and I wanted to check with you because I'm not sure, but I was under the impression that the Congress people received the classified report.
No, not only them. Not only them.
And it's like
the National Security Council had a meeting presided over by the National Security Advisor and Congress, and they all heard it.
Yeah, and isn't it something like 70 or 80 or 90 pages total?
70 pages and 14 videos. They got to see the good stuff.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that there was a full report?
Let me finish with my question.
There was a full classified report and 14 videos, and I know several people who were in the National Security Council meeting, and the best comment I heard was what we had was 40 minutes of science fiction movies. We were all gobsmacked.
All right, Bob, I'm gonna stop you there on that because that is stuff that I kind of want to go onto the radio.
Of course.
All right.
Interesting.
So
thank you for the question, Tom, because it's a good.
It was 73 pages.
Yeah, 70 plus pages and
so
videos.
What we've gotten is actually it's a public abstract of a classified report.
It's a public. It's ridiculously slim. It's just. Everything they could redact, they did, but the committees and the White House, they saw the works.
Well, this is confusing. It's a preliminary assessment. It's not a summary of something else. But you're saying that there was an extensive report that was submitted to them, but that whole thing was classified. So does that mean that there won't be an extensive report to the public? We just get that assessment?
I do not know the answer to that. What I know is what I was told. I was told no classified information. I was told about the existence of events and people's reactions.
Okay, well, this is not that far off because, again, when I say that such a report would be a public relations nightmare, it's a public relations nightmare if the public sees it. Now, if they don't release it, if it stays classified, then it can still set the tone for hearing.
Steve Bassett, you have been in Washington, D.C. for decades. How long do you think the fucking reporters are going to leave this alone?
Well, there's already been a leak to the New York Times.
Of course there has. This shit is going to blow up like a volcano.
Hey, I would love that. But I'm trying to understand their strategy here. Right.
This is gonna blow up. There's no way this is gonna be kept quiet.
Fan him down, Dave. Fan him down.
I want it to blow up, but
I know you do. And I'm telling you, there is no way you're gonna keep the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Associated Press and the Wall Street Journal from breaking this crap story open.
If that is true, then that makes the case for the early call, the early number.
I agree with you. And so the only reason I say August is July has all sorts of crap in it, including the police reform and the infrastructure. They just can't get to it. I think
All
it's
right, all right, gentlemen and ladies, hold on one second. Big thank you to G West a couple of times. Ufologist Jeremy, Steve, Sehow, Alicia, Chuck, Ibarata, Andrew, Rachmaninoff, Sally, Michael times 2, Troy, and Science Bob for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show, and we're close to breaking a record here. Here we go.
Oh, they're donating money.
big time.
Excellent. I love that song too. It's a great song. Fascinating. So we got a 70-page report.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to stop talking right there because we just got to get to this panel. We got an incredible panel after the UFO drop has happened in Washington, D.C. The Director of National Intelligence releasing its UFO report, a whopping 4 pages of information. Yes. Disappointed? Happy? What is your thoughts? We got a great panel tonight from MUFON. We have Tom Whitmore, Bob McGwier, former head of science at Virginia Tech University, Steve Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, Zealand Communications, Victor Viggiani out of Toronto, Nicole Sakach, researcher extraordinaire, and Lynn Wallington from Spaced Out Saturdays. Nicole, I want to start with you on this one because you and I talked quite a bit here going back and forth over the last number of months. What was going to come out? What was your initial feeling when you saw this report?
Wah, wah, wah. You said my initial thoughts. That was my initial sound that came to my head. Honestly, it was kind of exactly what I braced myself for. I think it was great for the public. I think it followed suit with the pace of how this has been unfolding over the year. I mean, this was the longest 180 days that I can recall in a long time. And just the amount of media attention and outside of the community attention to it over the past few months, especially. So I think it's exciting for the rest of the world. I mean, it is historic moments here, like have been pointed out, but there are snippets that are encouraging in there. There are admissions, and I think we'll talk about them in more detail later. But then, of course, anybody with a good eye is going to, find some things to pick at. Like, I have a big problem with this page 3, just confirming they're only seriously looking at cases from 2004 and on. We've talked about this for a while. Is this a reboot of ufology, and is this going to X out our history? It is. And that's my opinion. And they're blaming it on, faulty sensors maybe, or just the lack of being able to collect this data correctly. And I don't know. I think that falls short in so many ways because, don't we have the most advanced technology on the planet now? Like, come on, we either do or we don't. We can collect this stuff. We can share it. I just, there's holes in that. I don't like it. Like Tom was pointing out, there are little holes that you can find here, contradictions. And I think all of us that haven't been so crazy busy all day, we're just waiting to line by line analyze this entire thing. So, and Steve, your private email that you send out to your 100 favorite friends, I think has gone viral. I had 3 different people send it to me. So,
well, I have to say, I got a little blindsided here because I knew that there was a briefing that of some of the intel people. And obviously because there was a leak in the New York Times, that was actually a pretty significant story they got there. But what you're basically saying is it wasn't just they briefed them on what they were doing, they delivered them the report. The most of the report is all classified. So if they actually had 70 pages, that's probably the report. that they decided to classify it all for now. And that's new. Okay, so I'm digesting that. And then for the public, they gave us this nice little assessment, which was safe. Okay. It doesn't get them into trouble. Let me give you a perfect example. On page 6 of this report, there's this, which I found amusing. They're talking about the data issues and everything. And one of the bullet points, it says, although the United States Air Force data collection has been limited historically, I beg your pardon?
Right.
The U.S. Air Force data connection, Project Grudge, Sign, Project Blue Book, thousands of sightings, went on for years, and that's limited historically. You see, that's totally ridiculous, but they can't refer back to it. They can't bring that back into play because that reminds people they've been investigating this thing since the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, and that was the point I was trying to drive home. It feels like with this timeline that they've given us, 2000 to now, or 2004 to now, it feels like they're leaving out the damning things that they've been involved in. You know, it just feels like, oh, forget that. We need to go. We don't have good data. There's not good data there. Just this new 2000s and on. That doesn't sit right with me. So,
Victor, you have your finger up.
That's not a sign of derision.
It's the index finger. I just want to mention that to the audience.
No, I think we're broaching the issue from a position of you know what it's like. It's almost like driving a 1957 Chev to the moon with the windshield blacked out and only depending on the rear view mirror as to where we're going here. That's the position we're in up until today. Right now, somebody has given the windshield a bit of a spritzer, and so we have more clarity as to where we're going. And that's the trajectory that we're on at this point. Now, I spent about 2.5 hours on a Zoom call with Mark Sims and Daniel Sheehan the day before yesterday with respect to what Daniel Sheehan and Luis Elizondo went through on June 15th. Both of those men, Daniel Sheehan and Luis Elizondo, were in the office of the Inspector General of the United States. So Danny was representing Luis, and there was 2 or 3 lawyers representing the office of the Director of National Intelligence. No, pardon me. The Inspector General. Pardon me, I misspoke myself. So these people are all in the room, and what they're trying to do is to get the Inspector General to acknowledge the fact that the Pentagon has gone out of its way, specifically Susan Goff, with lying about who Luis Elizondo was, what his role was within the ATIP program, because she has gone out of her way to lie about his role, saying that he had nothing to do with it. And so Danny and Luis filed a complaint on May the 3rd that they have to back away from that kind of attack mode that they're on. So in the context of what happened today, Daniel and Luis Elizondo were very, very clear that this report would be 73 pages, most of which would be, backroom data, classified, but that there would be a 22 or 23 page, and now it's reduced to 9 or 10 pages, whatever it is, about an executive summary. And that's the kind of agreement that they came to, that they knew would be coming forward. So this was no surprise to anybody that this assessment, as Steve calls it, it's not a report, came forward in the way that it did. So we have to be very circumspect about how cagey this group of people is being. Now, the CIA, the NRO, all of these alphabet organizations, they have spent 70 years of deception. They pride themselves with lying to the public. That's all they do. There's no reason to believe anything that the CIA or the NRO or NASA says about this issue. So what we have to do is depend on this, whatever you want to call it, as Steve says, this assessment.
Well, that's what they call it. They call it an assessment.
Assessment. So what we have to do is rely on that as the first kernel of acknowledgement by the U.S. government since the Robertson panel or the Blue Book or whatever you want to call it about this issue. So coming forward, we are now in a position that we have the government in a corner. They have no alternative but to deny and to keep proffering the idea that this is Chinese or Russian or US technology. That is no longer a scenario that they can stick with. And they know it as well as everybody else does. But why they are preferring to say that these other technologies that are out there, balloons or whatever we want to call these silly things that they put in this report, it's just a very false flag situation that they're putting forward right now. And Luis Elizondo and Danny Sheehan are bent on the idea that the truth has to come out, not necessarily through government documents or government documentation. What we have to do is sidestep all of that garbage that the government is putting forward and make this a citizens' initiative to come to the truth of what's really going on here. So there's no reason to believe anything that these people say. Right.
I want to get to Lynn Wallington because we haven't heard her voice yet. She's been sitting silently for 45 minutes here. And thank you, Lynn. And I have, hey, I'm the same way as you are right now. But I know, Lynn, you have a vested interest in UFOs, along with being our Saturday night host. What is your thoughts with everything that you read today in this file?
It's probably the longest I've ever been silent, let's be honest, for 45 minutes. It's got to be a record.
I've never done it.
Well, I don't know. I think I might have an unpopular opinion because, and granted, my expectations, as anybody who's watched the show knows, were extremely low. So the bar was like here. So the fact that I was able to read between the lines and see anything was exciting to me. So, for example, let me find it again. Hold on a second. I had it pulled up, but I was waiting. On page 6, where they said, they were talking about the other classification. They had the 5 different classifications that they would put these into. And they said that although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remained unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collecting, processing, or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. To me, that says they're admitting we don't know. We don't have the scientific knowledge at this point in time to understand what it is we're seeing. That is an admission to me. So when I read it, I look at what they're not saying as opposed to what they are saying. And that's what's exciting to me.
Okay, so Bob, you want to say something? You're muted.
No, I'm not. Okay, so several things. So since the 1940s, we've known we've had UFOs.
Correct.
And they're going to say that there could be Russian and Chinese. Look at me. Since 1945, the Chinese had chopsticks that they didn't know how to get manufactured. And they're going to be producing this stuff since 1945 while we've been watching. Baloney. The Russians had the crap kicked out of them by the German Nazi armies and Air Force throughout World War II. And in 1945 to 50, they're going to produce some technology that we've been watching constantly. It's crap. Okay, so that's a big deal. The second thing is the deal is Lynn has hit on a good point. I mean, really, really good point. But I want to tell you more, give you more context. Chris Mellon went on the TTSA website and he wrote a blog and he named the instrumentalities the government ought to put together, and they almost crapped themselves. And the reason is every one of those instrumentalities is owned by a stovepipe, and they don't want to share their data with anyone else. And what's going to happen is these exquisite systems need to share their data with each other, and every owner of one of these pieces of equipment is screaming they don't want to share their data with the other one. Okay, so but that is what has to happen. And so part of the reason for having this in front of Congress is it's going to take an act of Congress to order them to take the programs that Congress ordered be done in the first place and glue it together so we get infrared sensors and underwater microphones and airplane radars and land-based radars and space-based radars and space-based telescopes and space-based infrared, et cetera, and glue them all together. And the reason they need to work on it, and it's going to take real science, is every one of those instruments has noise and clutter they want to get rid of.
Right.
So they put a glue in there called a matched filter that picks out the targets they're looking after. Well, why does a UAP look like a Russian bomber? It doesn't. So they got to go in and do a ton of work to open up the aperture without killing their primary mission. That is going to cost a ton of money.
I want to read something here, gentlemen. Oh, I don't know what is happening there, but let's remove that. I'm going to read something here. This I took from Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post, and this is Lou Elizondo's report to or comment to the New York Post. This preliminary report from the UAP task force is the first of many to come. The American people now know a small portion of what I and my colleagues in the Pentagon have been privy to, that these UAP are not secret U.S. technology, that they do not seem to belong to any known allies or adversaries, and that our intelligence services have yet to identify a terrestrial explanation for these extraordinary vehicles. Out of 144 incidents, the task force was only able to identify one. This conversation is only beginning. Now, everyone, when you hear that, and I hear that, to me, I think Lou said a lot more than the entire report did. Because,
one more thing I want to read. It's really important. Lou has been going around saying, and we know this already, that the Pentagon deleted all of his emails. Okay, everybody knows that. But the thing that most people are missing is Lou had stashed away in a folder a ton of videos and other evidence, and they deleted all of it. I mean, he is really angry, and he should be. So he and Sheehan are going to open up, and they're going to say, "Look, if you don't start telling the truth, we're going to tell the truth." And the other, that's number one. And number two, he's threatened to run for Congress. Why would that help? Because once he gets on the floor of Congress in front of microphone, he's immune. He can say whatever he wants about anything he knows and blow it wide open. I hope he runs for Congress and gets elected.
Victor, let's get your opinion.
Well, boy, how long is a piece of string? You just don't know. The ideas that everybody's putting forward so far are totally valid. And I think the idea that was just mentioned about the compartmentalization about all of this, all of the agencies, the Air Force, the Navy, the term stovepiping was used so that nobody knows what else is happening within their own bailiwick, within their own frame of reference. What happened today, and the reports that I put up in the chat box from the Defense Department and the Secretary of Defense memorandum, what these things point to are marching orders for all of these agencies that have begun to blur all of the lines that separate these agencies from their departmentalization of all of these issues. Somehow, what this report did, and it's just my opinion, that it has blurred or destroyed the lines that separate all these agencies. So all of a sudden, we're not getting sort of, individual kind of reports. We're getting a milkshake of everything. And these people, these individuals, these agencies have been told by the Secretary of Defense and the Deputy of Secretary, get your act together, share information, and make sure that what you're doing is correct, adequate, and accurate. And that has never happened before. And that's what I think is happening today. All of the lines of departmentalization have been virtually eradicated. And how that's going to play out is going to be very interesting, because the marching orders are tell the truth, what's going on, and then you guys have to get your act together to put. Now, why has the United States Air Force been so silent? I want to put that question before everybody. The United States Air Force have been hiding in the bushes about this. I want an answer to that because they were part and parcel of the initial kind of cover-up. And I've spoken to the public relations departments in the United States Air Force, and they refuse to talk to anybody about this whole situation. Why have they been separate and apart from all of this? I don't know why. So there's a whole lot of factors here that have to be played into in the greater context of what's going on. So I just raised a few questions, so maybe we can use that as a point of discussion.
Nicole, you want to add a chime in here? Unmute yourself, please. There you go.
Okay, I want to jump in on this Air Force part. This keeps jumping back to conversations I've had with Don Schmidt about the same thing, you know. And honestly, I have really embraced the Navy spearheading this. And, you know, anytime the Air Force comes up, we know what the Air Force has done. We know what they blackballed and dismissed and covered up. And now to see kind of this reemergence of the Air Force saying we don't have any involvement or we want back in the game now, I don't know. We know that's bull crap. I'm not going to cuss tonight, I promise, but it is bull crap. And I don't know if any of you guys are checking your emails right now, but another brilliant article, and he's talking about the Air Force involvement in parts of it and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And he brought up an excellent point. If you guys let me find it real quick, I'll just read it verbatim for you. He says, and this is Billy Cox again, and what's up with the Air Force? Remember those guys? ODNI informs us the majority of UAP data is from U.S. Navy reporting, along with this genuine revelation. Although U.S. Air Force data collection has been limited historically, the U.S. Air Force began a 6-month pilot program in November of 2020. And then he goes on to say about a paragraph later that in 1969, a couple of months before the U.S. Air Force washed its hands of UFOs, the deputy director and chief of staff, I'm reading fast here, issued a memo that surfaced in 1979 by FOIA request. And he quotes this Bolander memo, and it says reports of unidentified flying objects which could affect national security are made in accordance with, and you guys know this lingo better than I do, Jan App 146 or Air Force Manual 5511, and are not part of the Blue Book system. The Air Force experience therefore confirms the impression of the University of Colorado researchers that the defense function would be performed within the framework established for intelligence and surveillance operations without the continuance of a special unit such as Project Blue Book. So we know the Air Force ended Project Blue Book, shuffled this on to something else. We know surveillance has been taken over by the intelligence community. And so here in our current climate, we're talking about turning this UFO task force into an actual entity, not something that's temporary. So is this just another version of Blue Book then? And that's going to get shuffled along? And is there going to be higher access? Like, these are just all things that are running through my mind, but I feel bad when the Air Force gets involved.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much. We are going to get back to the panel. Hour number 1 is next. The good news is we have 2 hours to go here on Spaced Out Radio. A fantastic post-panel here, talking UFOs all night long. From the Paradigm Research Group, Stephen Bassett, Science Bob McGwier, Nicole Sakach, Victor Viggiani from Z-Line Communications, Spaced Out Saturday host Lynn Wallington, and Tom Whitmore from MUFON. We continue the conversation on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
I'd really, I don't know where we want to go with this, guys, but I'd really like to hear more dialogue about the position that Mark Warner and Marco Rubio are in with respect to bringing their stuff forward, and what this hearing issue is, and the hearings. I think that, I mean, we've got this stuff in front of us, and I think it's so important that we realize that if this stuff does translate into some sort of call for hearings, we're going to be in a completely different place, in August or July, or December, whatever it is. So I'd like to really kind of look forward about that issue. I'm not sure how other people feel about it. I mean, we can ruminate about the report and all of that, but this issue of hearings could blow this thing wide open more than ever, and even today, what happened. So that's my feeling.
Idea on that, Victor. This classified report that the Congress people received, they leaked that to the New York Times, to the Washington Post,
right,
et cetera. And then the media starts the drumbeat for congressional hearings based on that leaked report.
There you are. Yep.
So I could see that happening.
Yeah. That's the problem that I see, because the focus in my assessment, I mean, I spent all day today on this stuff. I mean, I got up in the morning and expecting things, and nothing happened until later on in the afternoon. And all of a sudden things broke through. And then all of the focus was on what the report said and what it didn't say. All the critics come out and say what they're saying, and it's not enough, it's too much, it's irrelevant, or whatever it is. But nobody is focusing on what this really means. We're not focusing on this report. We're focusing on why Rubio did what he did, why Warner did what he did, and they don't have any interest in ruminating this thing in the media over and over again. They are, I think, in a position, and I'd like to hear Steve's position on this. They are in a position to not just kind of put forward what this report is all about, and the 144 sighting reports and all of that other kind of stuff. They have to move forward on this. They have to go forward on it. And the only thing they can do, as far as I'm concerned, is call for hearings. They have no other alternative. I mean, am I naive in suspecting that that might be the case? I don't know. I think we need to kind of inject that narrative into what we're trying to do, and sort of.
Well, they can write a bill. They can write a bill, or they can have hearings. That's their job.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, that to me is the essence, because that's what the American public needs to hear. They don't need to read this long report of 73 pages and everything. They need to hear from the people like, Robert Salas and all of the 6, launch commanders and that have signed affidavits about nuclear tampering. We've not heard anything about that. I have not heard any dialogue or rhetoric about nuclear tampering. And if I'm the deputy director of the United States, Pentagon, military, consortium, and I know about nuclear tampering, there's been no dialogue about that at all. Why?
Well, one of the reasons I think the Air Force has tried not to be involved is they don't want to tell how many times UFOs are still to this day showing up over missile fields.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to. They haven't been made to.
They are.
So why would they?
They are now. According to this report, they started doing reporting. And now they're going to have to tell how often they show up over missile silos.
Well, is this the Air Force's attempt at their money grab to kind of continue a conversation we were having earlier? I mean, we all know that, Space Force, the entity, kind of took money away from them initially. And so is this their way of trying to get their foot back in the money door?
No, so Space Force is still going to be involved, because Space Force is the one that's going to get all the nuclear modernization money. Look, if you've paid attention, all the labs and the Space Force, etc., ask for new money to develop new nuclear weapons, because our, quote, arsenal is old and falling apart.
Right. But is this like the Air Force's attempt to get more money that they had taken away from them previously? Like,
no. They may get new money, but it won't be for what they want. They don't want to spend money on sensors. They want to spend money on airplanes.
Or are they going to give us the alien bodies they have in storage on some Air Force base?
This is just my feeling is they relinquished control of those to a private entity a long time ago to keep them from being subpoenaed to produce them in front of Congress, etc.
I think we also have to take into consideration
and destroyed all the records. Go ahead, Lynn.
Quickly, we have 1 minute.
I was going to say, I think we also have to take into consideration the general public. We know all of these things, but they don't. So this report to them is groundbreaking. So the government and the military are only going to give it to them in small doses.
All right.
Yep.
Coming out of the break, we're going to, before we get to Rubio and Warner, we're going to get to the threat phenomena. Tom, I'm going to start with you because you were pretty silent that last half hour. I apologize. And there are so many super chatters right now. Thank you so much for taking real good care of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We really appreciate it. We have a brand new record here on the show for our live updates. We hit 357. That breaks the old record by 2. And I know we'll probably break that yet here tonight as we go into hour number 2. Remember, this is a 3-hour show. You guys get the backstage version of the radio side here on YouTube, Twitch, and Spreaker. So I hope you're enjoying. We're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. Sit back, relax, because we got one hell of a show going on right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight, a special SOR panel that we're going to just get right to here momentarily. I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Quatch. Oh, that's close, Clam. Very close to the banned word. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to the panel. Lynn Wallington from Spaced Out Saturdays. Science Bob is here. Stephen Bassett from Paradigm Research Group. From MUFON, we have Tom Whitmore. Zealand Communications, Victor Viggiani, and one of the top researchers going right now, Nicole Sakach. And everyone, welcome back to this panel. You know, one of the things that I learned from this preliminary assessment that was released by the Director of National Intelligence is the fact that we're still using the word threat phenomena. Tom Whitmore, I want to bring you in here to discuss this a little bit. You know, I was really hoping, Tom, that we wouldn't see the word threat continue here, but yet here it is.
Yeah, and Dave, I'm trying to read between the lines on this in this paper, and maybe I'm seeing too much, but I'm thinking about the strategies and some of the politics behind the scenes, because there are factions in the Department of Defense and in the military, and there are cross currents going on here. Now, there are 2 areas in this assessment that were mentioned. One is basically pilot or flight safety, and the other is this possibility of foreign countries, buzzing us with their technology. And in both of their areas, they're referring to them as threats. And what I think that does is that provides cover for the faction that wants to continue the investigation of UAP. In other words, it provides a legitimate, conventional explanation as to why they're investigating these things. And that's where I think the threat is coming from. And like I said before, Dave, in my previous talk this evening, I cannot believe that if the Russians or the Chinese or the Israelis or whomever are running this technology up against our fighter planes, that the U.S. government doesn't know that. I mean, that's absurd. So I really think that this use of the word threat is a cover strategy to legitimize the investigation into UAP.
Lynn, what's your thoughts on what Tom says?
I'm actually not surprised that they use the word threat. When you think about who this report is coming from, and you look at it from just a very generic perspective, it's the Department of Defense. That is their job, to assess threats. So to me, I'm not even bothered by the fact that they keep using the word threat. Do I think it's Russian or Chinese? Absolutely not. I agree with what Tom said. I think they know that it's not. But, it doesn't bother me at all that they keep using the word threat. I think that they're doing that on purpose. It's very almost reasonable that they would.
Nicole, the word threat, does it bother you that it's still being used in this report?
Not as much as it used to. I mean, I think as long as the narrative stays in, we need to know more, this is a possible threat. When you take the talk and theories of false flag operations off the table, then yes, it's very obvious anything in our airspace is going to be considered a threat. But I think what gets me riled up these days is that if this is a threat to our military or our airspace or commercial airlines, when are they going to cross that line and hit home with the public? Like, this is happening over our landmass of a country as well, in every state. Cheryl Costa, love her research, love her and Linda's book, down to the county. When is this going to hit home that this isn't just a military threat? It is a social threat or whatever. What are they going to put the lingo for, the everyday scenario, that kind of experience? So I don't think they can float the threat world with the rest of the country or the community or the public. It's just in this military parameter that they can use that. And I think it goes to get the money.
Bob, is it to scare the other politicians who may be reading in on this and or the public to try and get the financial backing for the UAPTF?
So I don't really think that's necessary, and I want to remind people of something. Lieutenant Ryan Graves was on the USS Teddy Roosevelt and we're conducting operations off the Virginia coast and all the way down to Florida when the Teddy Roosevelt was going across to go into the active hostilities zone in the Persian Gulf and into Iraq. So Lieutenant Ryan Graves says that a cubical object inside of what looked like an energy field sphere flew within 50 feet between he and his wingman. That is a threat. End of story. That was a near midair collision, and it's gone on and on and on. And he and others have said hundreds and hundreds of times. That's a quote. Hundreds of times they saw these objects over the Teddy Roosevelt. And the thing I keep waiting to come out that I have heard is the objects followed them over to the Persian Gulf and watched their activities. What do you think the Navy's going to think? That's a threat. Because they're observing. They're observing them.
They would throw in that it's a threat or a possible attempt at communication, because that's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, so
following you around and buzzing by you.
Advanced civilization is not going to have trouble saying, here's some algebra and math. Here, let's begin communicating. They're not trying to. They're not trying to communicate.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that this is a reach of communication, whether directly or, worldwide, like we're here, but we can't even say if they're trying to communicate back. I've posed the question, what are they trying to do? Do they flash lights in those scenarios? Like, we just don't know. Victor, I'll pass it to you.
Well, yeah. Dave, did you want to?
Well, I was going to say quick comment from you, Victor, and then I want to get your opinion on Marco Rubio and Mark Warner.
Yeah. Okay. Very quickly. I think one of the things that we have to focus on right now is I realize this report came down from the Director of National Intelligence within the United States context, But I think that there's a broader context here with respect to the international implications of what's going on. We know that all of the rhetoric that's come forward has really focused on, the American experience and how Rubio and Warner are putting this stuff forward. But there is a broader context internationally with respect to how NATO countries have experienced all of this. And that is something that I don't think that the Congress is considering in their report. And I haven't read the entire 73 pages because I don't have access to it. But what are the factors that are influencing NATO countries, all the NATO countries, and even other global communities with respect to this issue? This is not, with all due respect to the introspection that's going on right now within the United States government and, the Director of National Intelligence, I respect all of that, but there is a broader a global aspect to all of this, an international aspect to this that we're forgetting. And I don't think the media really understands that this is not an American issue. It's not a Canadian issue. It's not a country. This is a global international issue. So how can we bring forward any kind of new narrative, any kind of new discourse that these situations that are evolving all over the planet are international in scope? And I'm not sure how you bring that kind of narrative to the forefront, that kind of discourse, because if you narrow this this scenario, this narrative just to an American framework, we are missing the boat. We're missing the entirety of what this issue is all about. This is a global issue. This is not just a United States issue. So I know that the political implications within the United States government are extreme. There's absolutely no doubt about it, because we're dealing with a military establishment that is the most powerful element on the planet. So we can't dismiss that. But the fact of the matter is, this is an international issue that we all have to deal with as a human family. So how do we integrate, what the United States government is doing with respect to this report, and rationalize it within the scope of an international dialogue? I really want to hear more about that, because if we don't do this, this becomes, I think, framed in the threat scenario. Because the United States government, as far as I'm concerned, and correct me if I'm wrong, the United States government is the only government at this point in time that is framing this issue as a threat. Okay, I know the French government has a totally separate view on this. The Spanish government has a totally separate view on this. The Peruvian government has a totally separate view on this. So if we frame this issue just in an American framework, we're really in trouble with this. So I just want to raise that issue because I think it's very, very important with respect to the international implications of this issue.
Right. And I'll get back to you in a second, Victor. I want to get Steve Bassett in here. Steve, Marco Rubio and Mark Warner really led the charge on this. What do you see from them coming here in the next little bit regarding this report and future intelligence briefings?
Look, I've had a long couple of days. There's a lot going on. I'm getting calls and all kinds of stuff, interviews. So I started off kind of juiced up on 5-hour energy drink. So I don't think I really got across what I was trying to say. Let me give it another chance.
I'm going to get you just to move your microphone a little bit because there seems to be some rattling behind it there.
Really? Okay. How about now?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I know what happened. This is moving. It shouldn't be moving. So let me give it another try. I'm suggesting that if you want to understand what's going on, you might want to consider this perspective. First, the United States government, the people that have a need to know, and that's a decent number of people over there, have known there's an extraterrestrial presence since no later than 1947. That's 74 years. They already know. Okay. They know there's extraterrestrials because they have the bodies. So they chose to embargo it, and they have had to misrepresent the truth for national security reasons for all of these years. And then recently, a chain of events, starting with the election campaign of 2015-16, and then the To the Stars Academy, the New York Times articles, has triggered a process that is leading to something very important, and that is the end of the truth embargo or disclosure. All right, now, consider that the TTSA was created to specifically do just that. It wasn't created as a hobby for these retired members of the MIC. It wasn't created for something to make them a lot of money, because I can assure you that didn't work out. It was created to end the truth embargo, which a significant cadre of people within the military intelligence complex have come to believe is the right course of action. But they could not act while serving in the MIC. So they created a proxy organization of civilians, and they did it. And the purpose is to end the truth embargo. But how? By somehow getting the DOD to cough up its files? No, the DOD can't do that. The DOD cannot end the truth embargo. There is only one person that can do that, and that's the President of the United States. He's the only person that has the power to declassify anything within the Department of Defense if he so or she so chose to take on that political capital. And so everything you're seeing, whether it's this report, the action of Rubio, the 2 years of briefings that were being taken on the Hill by Mellon, committee chairs and members that we've forgotten about, all the witnesses that have been accumulated by Luis Elizondo, military witnesses, all of that was in preparations for hearings, because that's the way this has to end. The president can't just get up one morning and decide it's time to tell the people the truth and go out and say there's ETs here. I'm sorry we didn't tell you. Bye-bye. The president could take a sledgehammer to the Pentagon and threaten to fire everybody if they didn't get the files. Every president has had that ability. They've chose not to take that sledgehammer. They chose to kick it down to the next president. Okay. So how do you get the president to do this? And how do you do it in such a way that it minimally damages anybody and it makes everybody look as good as possible? You have to have hearings in which the Congress asks questions, military witnesses give important testimony, the DOD produces a report, the public watches it in the tens of millions, transparency, truth process, and after a certain amount of time, it literally hands the president the ability to end the truth embargo by then going in front of the people and saying, I've been watching the testimony along with you all these many, many days. And now I've talked with my top people at the Pentagon and congressional leaders, and we've come to the collective consensus that the evidence is confirming there is an extraterrestrial presence. Embargo over. Disclosure has happened. Now, when we get stuff from the Pentagon and when we learn this and when we learn that and all this other stuff that people are thinking about now, instead of focusing on what the goal was from the beginning, will come to us in the post-disclosure world. And so Rubio's action was to help get hearings. The Pentagon had to respond in a way that would help get hearings. It could not get out of hand. It could not say certain things because that would have been premature. The Pentagon can't end this embargo. And the Pentagon was in a very difficult position because they know there's an extraterrestrial presence. They know that it's not a threat, basically. If it was a threat, I assure you, that would have been manifest a long time ago. But they can't say any of this. And the way I put it in my presentations, and I've done 100 now since January 1st, is they're going to have to lie their way out of the lie. There's no way to tell the truth to get out from under this lie. And so I've come to call it a public relations extrication project, in which all of this is designed to extricate the United States government and the military intelligence complex out from under the truth embargo so the president can end it and they can get back to some sort of normal way of conducting business, and we can start getting the truth in the hearings that will follow. That then, if you think of it that way, explains all the oddities and the inconsistencies and why did they say this and why did they say that? It doesn't matter. The point is, whatever they're doing or saying is about the hearings. And when a Brennan or a Norquist or even a Woolsey suddenly decides to speak up to a reporter and say, you know, I think that's not explainable. I think those are not definitely something that we may have. 20 years ago, they would have laughed in your face and told you to get the hell out of their office. And they're not the only ones. You can't count the number of people that are coming forward and say, yeah, there's definitely something here. Why are they doing that? Woolsey knows there's an ET presence. He knew it when he met Greer 25 years ago. So they know this, but they also know that the truth embargo has to end in a way that is minimally disruptive to the country and politically viable.
So Steve,
the only way is
let me ask you, Steve, go back a second ago. What do you mean lie about the lie? Run us by that. I like that idea.
Sure. I'll give you a perfect example.
3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The apparently aspects of the report, were deliberately leaked to the New York Times. Not the whole report, just two things.
Right. Yeah.
And the New York Times reported. What were those two things?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quoting pretty close here. That we couldn't find anything indicating the presence of extraterrestrials, which is a dead flat lie. They've known it since 1947. Okay, so that's a lie. And then they said, and this is a semi-lie. They said, and the objects that have been reported in these 120 cases, remember they confined it to that, going back to 2004. We don't have that technology. That's almost a lie. They may not have the technology of those objects, the ones that are seen in those reports. Do they have anti-gravitic technology? Yeah, but that wasn't ours. And so that's not basically a lie, but it's half a lie. Doesn't matter. They cannot possibly tell the truth. Look, you think it's accidental that Luis Elizondo for all of these years has been struggling mightily not to say the word extraterrestrial? You don't think
I agree with you there. I agree with you there.
There are so many conundrums here.
His job is not to somehow explode the world into the issue and drive everybody in front of the Pentagon to set the cars on fire. No, his job, along with Mellon and now Steve Justice, who stepped out, is to get hearings. And it was a slam dunk because Hillary was going to win and it was going to happen like this. But she lost. And they got another president, and it wasn't quite what they thought. And then they got a pandemic. And so these people had to hold the line for 3.5 years. That was not in the plan. Suffer the slings and arrows, lose money, get ripped on the internet. And that's not what they wanted, but that's what they've had to go through. And they will eventually get acknowledged for that. I mean, really acknowledged for that. And finally, we had some stability politically. The pandemic starts to improve. And all of a sudden, you see this rush towards what? Congress. It was 1.5 years ago that Mellon made his most important statement in the Washington Post as an op-ed piece in which he called for hearings. Okay? Darson is called for hearings. You're going to see more of this. It is all about congressional hearings. If you try to think of it another way, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
All right. We have 1 minute here. And Tom, you want to quickly say something? Did you have your... No, I guess Tom doesn't. He kind of turned his camera off there. But Victor, quick reaction.
Well, no, I have to agree with Steve because you play this out for as long as it will last, and today was the beginning of it, and there's no doubt about it. And I Steve and I have talked about this a lot, with respect to how this will become part of the public narrative. And there is only one way. I mean, the Director of National Intelligence can issue a 75 or 175 page report on this. There will be virtually no impact on the general public with respect to the way that could be put forward. The only way that the public will become engaged about this is with public hearings. And that's just It's like, bread and butter. It's got to happen. There's no other way than that Rubio and Warner can suggest this issue is going to move forward.
Let's
Hearings
continue
are
that.
the only way that this will happen. So
The
you go
panel-
to break, and that's great. Thanks a lot,
The
Steve.
panel continues on Spaced
Yep.
Out Radio right after this UFO Report 2021. Let's do this right after.
Do you know that it's been now, as of July, it will be 2 years since Mark Warner was briefed by Mellon? 2 years. And the president was briefed by Mellon and the pilots. 2 years. Now, the president did nothing about it. This is not shocking. And Rubio was briefed at the same time. They briefed the entire Senate Intel Committee. It's been 2 years. Now, you may say, well, if it was that long ago, why didn't we have hearings fairly soon? You remember the political situation 2 years ago, by any chance? Okay, you remember that? 6 months later, when things might have gotten going, a pandemic arrived and started killing everybody. And so they've had to. But you think that in 2 years they haven't figured out pretty much how the hearings are going to go and who the witnesses are going to be? But they've got to call for them, right? And if you're going to call for them, it has to be on the basis of national security. It cannot be on any other basis. It can't be on the, there's a new movement now to get an embassy for the ETs, and it could be like, we need to hold hearings on how to build the ET embassy. You're not going to get those hearings. No. It has to be national security. Now, I happen to know a lot of the witnesses are going to testify, and I happen to know if when they're asked under oath by members of Congress, do you think the ETs are a threat? They're going to say no. Mm-hmm. All right.
Doesn't this harken back to what Leslie Kean was trying to push all those years ago too? I mean, she was pushing that this was a threat to our flights, our national flights, not just the Air Force. And
yeah, I know that. Yeah, every couple of days, one of our planes crashes into one and goes into the ground. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We do not run into UFOs.
Well, that's why I think this is weird. You know, we tried to say, oh, pay attention to this because this is affecting commercial airlines. And they're like, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And now they're pushing the threat narrative that it's affecting our Air Force. So
it's an attempt to get the attention. Greer tried to get the attention of the Congress many years ago by the energy issue. He seized on the energy issue in a big way. And he tried to get to the Congress on that basis. In other words, look, there may be this tech that could transform the energy world, and it's hidden behind the truth embargo. So let's get into this issue and hold some hearings and go get that.
When the entire world runs on petrodollars.
Exactly.
Greer had his head up his butt.
Yeah. Whatever. The point is that was at least a legitimate issue.
Steve, you need to fix your mic again.
Yeah, I need you to fix your mic again. You're starting to go into you're starting to go into robot talk again. Gonna have to call you.
Your microphone's a little wobbly.
Gonna have to call you Johnny 5.
Oh, I need to get a more expensive mic. How's this?
That's perfect.
That's
it's perfect.
Steve Bassett, everybody. Steve Bassett.
So it's always been a national security matter, legitimately. The number one, that there is one fundamental piece of evidence that locks down the national security narrative. And that is the repeated turning off of our nuclear weapons.
Right.
Obviously, that's an easy sell. Now, you may say, well, if that's true, since the witnesses on those cases have been out there for nearly 14 years, why haven't we had hearings? Because there wasn't enough platform yet. What the TTSA did in the Nuclear Times is they created the platform that would eventually allow these witnesses to come forward. But they've been out there. They know about them. The Congress knows about them. They know all about the nuclear weapons tampering. And there were probably people on some of those committees that said, we need to get some people in to testify. And the response was, not right now. Not now. You know, it's like, because have you looked at the situation politically? Right? And he said, well, it's not that bad. And then 5,000 people ransack the Capitol. No, it was really that bad. But now it's okay.
I'd like to give the show Ancient Aliens some credit too with bringing this to, popular pop culture and getting it outside the community. I mean, I know we've all eye rolled and thought it's gone off the deep end.
I'm eye rolling you right now.
But
I love
George Sokolos is a great actor.
But
I'm
I
with you,
mean,
Nicole.
that's not a realm I swim in normally in ufology, but that is something that people approach me with. It's like, hey, ancient aliens, hey, ancient aliens, hey, ancient aliens. And now it's TTSA. So
Ancient aliens got a lot right, believe me.
My favorite story is how Sokolos arrived at that haircut. It's hilarious.
I think it's
I used to have one like that.
It's a consciousness of its own, isn't it?
All right.
But everybody
We
in this
got-
field helped lay the groundwork for this.
We got 20 seconds, guys. I gotta
Mellon
get you
and
all to hold on.
Elizondo stand on the shoulders of thousands and thousands of citizen science researchers going
We
all
need
the
to
way
help
back
lay
to
this
Kyoto.
groundwork too.
Yeah.
All right,
And they will
bring you all
recognize
down
it
here because we got
eventually.
5 seconds. Thank you to all the super chatters. Hope you're enjoying the show. Here we go with the second half.
Second half.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Probably the best roundtable panel we have ever had on this show. All because of the UFO report. Yes, the preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena from the Director of National Intelligence right out of the Pentagon and into the hands of all people invested in ufology. We have a great panel tonight. We have Science Bob McGwier from Zealand Communications, Victor Viggiani, Steve Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, from MUFON. We have Tom Whitmore, Nicole Sakach, researcher, and Saturday night host on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. We have Lynn Wallington. Now, Victor, right before the break, you were talking about Marco Rubio and Mark Warner and the Intelligence Committee and where they go from here. Do you want to continue with that?
Well, the only thing that I want to reflect upon with respect to those two individuals is you got to think about what these two guys are thinking right now. They're representatives, they're key figures in all of this. So let's just suppose that Marco Rubio goes to bed tonight and he gets into his pajamas and sits down and crawls himself into bed and puts his head on the pillow, and then we all know what happens
He's
after
watching
that.
Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's right. And he thinks to himself, what the hell am I going to do next here? Okay. Those are the intimate thoughts of these individuals. And Mark Warner's going through the same thing. When you concentrate on the fact that you are a pivotal individual in this narrative, in this situation, and as you lay your head down on the pillow at night and try to fall asleep and think about what I'm going to do next, because this is the way politicians think. They ruminate over these things. So you got to figure that people like Marco Rubio and Mark Warner are going to have to make the correct decisions about what to do next. And I keep on going back to how can this information become prescient, become forward to the American public and even the international public. And so he has only one decision to make. He can ruminate over this director's the Director of National Intelligence report, the 73 pages, whatever it says, but he has only one decision to make. How can we bring forward people who've actually experienced these situations, pilots, military, air traffic controllers, nuclear installation launch officers, all of the, how can we bring these people forward? And the only answer to that question is citizen hearings. There is no other option that they have. I don't see any. He can go forward with press conferences and everything. The only option he has, and Mark Warner has, is to hold hearings. And I totally agree with Steve on this. And if that doesn't happen, then we're in a really tough position. But if it does, this is going to break open like nothing. Like today, we've all been very conversed and engaged in this issue. If hearings happen within 2 or 3, 4 months, whatever happens to be, today will be like a mini tea party with respect to what will happen once they call hearings. That's got to happen. There's no other alternative.
He's already made that decision, Victor. When he goes to bed at night, you know what he thinks about when he goes to bed at night?
Yeah.
How he will redecorate the family quarters at the White House. That's what he goes to bed thinking about.
Well,
he's already made the decision about hearings, I can assure you.
Is that another prediction, Steve? I'm going to write this one down.
Oh, you mean that he'll win the White House?
Yeah.
He's going to run. Whether who knows if he can win or not, because the politics in America is now so verkaka that I have no idea. Britney Spears could end up being president. I don't know. All I care about is that we have disclosure before the next election. That's all I care about.
But you know what I'm saying. I appreciate everyone's perspective on this. The only rational next step is for Congress to call hearings, and if they don't, then we're going to be in a very, very difficult position. If it's a yes, then my goodness, the gates are wide open.
Well, Congress has to figure out how to feed the dragon by sneaking out a couple of videos to keep the media happy.
Sure. Yeah. There's bait out there for sure. There's lots of bait for sure.
They'll be back on the 9th. They'll be back on the 9th of October.
One of the things I do want to talk about tonight, panel, is about some of the things that they were talking about, that this could be plastic bags. Was anybody else surprised or had a good laugh at the fact that a weather balloon was included in this report? I don't know about you, but I had a good snicker with that one. Science Bob, I want to talk with you about that.
Well, I thought it was hilarious. So I didn't know whether it was the Batman balloon or a weather balloon or which balloon it was, or the balloon the USS Kidd and the other thing saw burst right over the water. So so that made Mick West happy. I don't know who else it made happy.
I like the fact that it was a deflating balloon this time. It's beautiful.
But those balloons, when they're under pressure, they really do just pop and disintegrate. And that's literally probably what happened when the kid saw that thing disappear as the balloon disintegrated.
Yeah.
By the way, do we know who leaked those videos? Do we know where they came from? We don't, do we?
No.
I don't think so.
Somehow they got handed to Jeremy Corbell. Okay, fine. But the original, the 3 gun camera footages, full providence on that, all the way back to DOD. These other ones, no. So if there are people inside every agency, whether it's the ONI or the Department of Defense or any agency, who are not thrilled about these developments and where they're going, throwing out a couple of videos that includes a deflated balloon would be something you might do, just kind of create a little confusion. Nothing is quite what it seems, because again, we're having to kind of act out this whole scenario in order to get where we need to go. I would rather we didn't have to, but this thing's been going on for 75 years. This is an almost fully institutionalized situation. And so we have to go through this to get to where we have to go. And so, and I know people want to focus on every little thing that happens and tear it apart and everything, and I appreciate that. That's okay. I can't do that. I have to kind of step back and say, okay, what is the overall picture? Like looking at a chess game from a distance and trying to understand why this person moved there and so forth, and not get too wrapped up in the details. As long as it's pretty much following the scenario that you are projecting, I'm very comfortable, and I can assure you everything that is happening is supporting the scenario that I told you about, including Mellon, Elizondo, and Steve Justice suddenly stepping away from the TTSA.
Steve, could I just ask you a question, and through Dave? The White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, right?
Psaki.
Psaki, yep. I watched the initial, I guess, press conference room that they were involved in, and she was very cagey about what the White House is involved in all of this, and she made some very kind of lucid comments about it and whatever. How do you see that venue through the White House press secretary and her daily briefings? How do you see that venue explicating or illuminating or whatever with respect to what's going on? Like, how deep? We know those conversations are going on within the White House. How would that kind of narrative come forward within her perspective and the questions that the press corps will ask her about that? How do you see her professing, or at least putting forward whatever the narrative that is within the White House?
Yeah, if you review the questions that have been sent to given to Psaki and how she handled them, one of the early questions, she kind of, a little bit of humor there, and then compare them to the questions that were asked of John Kirby, the press secretary for the Pentagon, on 2 briefings, one June 1, one June 4. They're easy to find. Just go to Pentagon Press, and I think and click on scripts, and then go to June 1, June 4. These were very interesting questions. There were at least 6 of them, not only about UAPs, but also UFOs, and one was about bodies. And John Kirby is the press secretary of the Pentagon, and he handled them exactly the way you'd expect. Didn't downplay, kept referring to the basic processes underway. Psaki was not that serious or had to be more put offish. Why? Here's why. Under the scenario that I'm suggesting, the president has to stay back from this. Right? The president cannot get involved here. The more he is back from this, the easier it is for him to accept the present that these hearings are going to give him. Right? And so, in fact, he's been asked a little bit about this, and he kind of laughed it off a little bit, which upset some people, except that's in the scenario. But at the Department of Defense, it's a different thing. See, the Department of Defense, like the Navy and other institutions, is trying to get in front of this issue. It's trying to show it's part of the solution, right, and not the problem, because it knows that post-disclosure, the Department of Defense is going to face a lot of tough questions. And so they want to show cooperation and serious. The president stays back. That's how I interpret that. Right. But they can't go too far. Right. Because the goal is hearings. Nobody at the Pentagon can somehow break this open. That can't happen.
Jen Psaki has 2 jobs: propaganda and protect the president. Those are her 2 jobs: propaganda, protect the president.
Bob, I want to ask you something, because you talked to some of your fellow people in the alphabet agencies earlier today before the report came out regarding what their thoughts were, what they seen, and you heard some pretty astounding comments about that. I'd love our radio audience to be able to hear that.
So I heard from people that I've known for a long time who've been in the briefings. Now, I want to make very, very clear, I heard no classified information whatsoever. What I heard was, when you started getting into this UFO stuff a few years ago, we thought you were crazy. Okay, so that was the opening remark. And the second remark is, well, I've seen this briefing, but, I'm not telling you anything about it other than the reaction was people were gobsmacked, and they called it really good science fiction, but it's real.
Wow. That, I mean, for people to start taking that seriously regarding what you saw, and these people are in the intelligence communities, the one you said, it was like 40 minutes of sci-fi fantasy. Tell me about that. Tell me about, this reaction that these people.
Well, I mean, that's it. That's all I heard was that it was, 40 minutes. And what it was like was a good sci-fi novel, because they saw stuff that they had to just, they were in awe at what they saw. And
did they quote any books or movies, Bob? Did they give you a reference? Did they say it reminded me of this movie?
No, nothing. Okay. No. So that would be crossing the line. These people are careful. They don't get that high and not be careful. No, they were literally, we thought you were crazy. You're way ahead. Now we know you're not crazy. And when we got the real briefing, we were shocked, gobsmacked, and it was like science fiction. That's the sum total of the reaction, because I didn't get any classified information, because they're not going to get in trouble.
Lynn, wouldn't you just love to see what they mean by sci-fi?
You know I
Oh
would.
yeah, who wouldn't?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Lynn, your thoughts on, listening to what Bob said from kind of behind the scenes, and then what we see in the report with balloons and plastic bags and other worldly anomalies. Do you think that there was anything specific in there that we could grasp our claws into?
In the report itself?
Yes.
No, not really. I think anything that they said without saying, because we know they didn't really say much of anything, was just alluded to. So I don't think that there was anything specific that we could really hold on to. I think, to me, I view the report as a stepping stone. I don't think that it's anything that is going to be, I wasn't expecting it to give us any great revelation. So it's just, it's a starting point.
So do you think, Lynn, with respect to what they didn't say, this reflects upon what they should have said?
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? You can omit certain things and not say things, but that by omitting all of that, you are implicitly suggesting other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. I think that the government and the military always say things without saying them. So if you're looking at what they're saying, and you can, at least when I read it, I always see how they're kind of dancing around a subject a little bit, and that's how I interpret it.
Right.
So I look at what they're not saying within the context of what they are saying, if that makes sense.
So let me add the things that were revealing to me as, this technical person is they talked about RF emanations coming off of the craft. That's brand new. I mean, that's just brand new that they would admit in this document that they saw RF emanations, radar targets that were hard. So, and when they got the radar targets, they were multi-sensor captures of the targets. So they claimed in the report that means these are actually something physical. I mean, those things to me were revelations, and I really was shocked to see it in there.
Nicole.
I liked the probably multiple types.
Yes.
That hit home for me a little bit. That was good. That was a good probably, but we, forget probably.
Just from the Teddy Roosevelt and the people flying off Virginia, the Navy pilots flying off Virginia, they were reporting all kinds of different looking things out there that's not ours, and don't behave like drones or the machinery of our adversaries. They don't know what they are, and they cannot explain them.
Well, I think by using the word probably, that's as close as we're going to get in this particular report to them admitting something.
Oh yeah, but if they say probably, they know.
Yeah.
Well, they have a base of them at Area 51 S4, do they not?
We're not going to get that admission, or the body's out from right pad.
Yeah.
Well, let's not get into the weeds, boys and girls. Come on.
That's the fun part.
What my concern is how, generally speaking, how the mainstream media is going to interpret all of this stuff. We've got one foist of information, from the press release from the director of national intelligence. We've got all of that stuff, and the media is going to pick up on it in a big way. I mean, I've checked out MSNBC, CBS, and they're all jumping on this like a huge bandwagon, and they're going to be focusing on this particular report. And my biggest concern is that they're going to be focusing on all of the smoke and mirrors about this report rather than the kind of stuff that we're talking about right now. How can we bring our discourse, our narrative, the stuff that we're talking about right now, into the mainstream to have them understand that there's a different kind of narrative happening here rather than what this report is purportedly saying. And I'm not sure how we get that in front of the media, because as far as I'm concerned, if we don't get the media on board with the right scenario, we're going to be screwed here. Okay. So, I mean, I'm really, really concerned about that.
The media is going to do what it's going to do, but it's doing very well.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Look,
no doubt. You're right. It is.
I spent a half an hour on the phone with Ashley Parker, and
Ashley, my
only
goodness.
Ashley Parker is the White House bureau chief for the Washington
You
Post.
talked to Ashley Parker today.
No, this was about 2 weeks ago, and then
2
she
weeks
wrote
ago,
an
okay.
article on
My
this.
goodness.
This is before the leak,
Right.
and I gave her, my shtick, right? I mean, I gave her the larger picture. Now that's not what she was looking for, but I gave it to her because she was recording,
right?
And what she did was that she covered a lot of things in there. She talked about Brennan and Woolsey and all this stuff. Remember, it's the White House bureau chief. This is politics, all right?
Oh, big time.
But she chose to give me the actual final lines of this article, which I'm at the very, very end, where I state, paraphrasing, that if you're going to try to regain the public's trust by some truth telling, you probably should start with a very big truth. She put that quote in, and that was in the context of what I told her, which was the truth embargo had done enormous damage to the public trust, which has been eroded in a lot of ways, and it's reached the point of insurrections. And so she acknowledged that. Now, I've also offered to come down and brief the entire political reporting staff and just give them an off-the-record briefing to give them perspective. She hasn't gotten back to me on that. I'm contacting some other people. I'm actually contacting members of Congress. I'm moving back towards, but I'm not pushing it because it's not what you do. Right now, you just kind of let yourself be available. There is an historical process underway that's like a juggernaut. We can't steer it anymore, really. But we can maybe add something to it. But I can tell you, as someone who reads all of the media, all of the mainstream media, I know the internet media. I mean, you could spend your entire life. Believe me, the Washington Post and the New York Times are competing with each other who can write the most articles. 2 more have just recently come out. They know that Pulitzer Prizes are on the way. It's very possible that Blumenthal, Kane, and
Helene.
Hooley are going to get a Pulitzer Prize for those 3 articles. But there's others to come, and the Post and the New York Times are kind of in a somewhat similar position than they were on the Daniel Ellsberg papers, the Pentagon papers. The New York Times got them first and was clearly going to ride that all the way to glory, but the judge in New York stepped in and injuncted them. And that set the stage for the Post to get the papers themselves through one of their reporters. They weren't injuncted, and they went forward and ended up in the legal situation. But anyway, so the Post ends up with essentially the story. This is somewhat similar. The Times got the major story, not the Post. And then the Post was a little late to the game and started publishing, but there was no injunction. So the Times out in front, but the Post has done more stories. There are about 7 or 8 more stories in the Post now since the TTSA. And then the Times got another big story that it got the leak. The leak was to the Times. Why? Because the Times is in front of the story. And I got that across. I assure you, the Post, there are people on the Post that have figured out this is the biggest news story in all of history. Nothing has been ever bigger than this.
They're going to dig. I'm telling you, the next 2 weeks while Congress is out of town, they're going to be digging like crazy for a leak.
Yeah, they may start going investigative reporters. They may put this kind of staff on. I think the Times already has done that. They're going to start going through the Pentagon trash cans, whatever they got to do, looking for leaks, because they know now, not only is this the biggest story of all time, which they may have known 15 years ago, because I've been telling them this for the last 20 years, except that now that story is breaking. And so the question is, are you going to get on it, or are you going to sit back? And so once the Times and the Post are competing to see who can get the best leaks and stuff, the truth embargo is done. It's toast. Put a fork in it, please. So,
but Steve, let me go back to Ashley Parker again. And you know as well as I do that Ashley Parker is on Nicole Wallace. She's on Rachel Maddow.
Everything.
She's on everything. MSNBC. So she's the Washington representative for all of this with respect to that.
She's the bureau chief.
She's the bureau chief
for the Washington Post.
Exactly.
And she did an article on this herself. She didn't assign it to one of the reporters. She wrote it personally. And so I'm in Washington D.C. As you can see, I'm sitting right out in front of the White House right now.
Right.
I'm in protesting for most of the evening. I've got a little sign here that says, give it up. The point is that I'm really seeing some things that y'all are not in a position to see, and I'm trying to tell you, we're winning. We are winning. It's looking great.
Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on there. Great panel tonight. Stephen Bassett, Victor Viggiani, Lynn Wallington, Nicole Sakach, Science Bob, Tom Whitmore. We continue with hour 3 of the UFO panel right after this on the Roundtable.
No, if you can't get that young lady to get on Rachel Maddow, I mean, Rachel Maddow has interviewed
Maddow.
Maddow's not one of our friends. She's not on board with this. She's got a personal thing there. She can't deal with it. No.
Really?
Okay.
Now, I will throw in, guys, that I would say over the last maybe 4 months or 5 months, just from some of my outside sources, there is interest from newsrooms, like Tucker Carlson's newsroom and his underlings are reaching out to people in our community, so the mainstream media is sort of looking to social media to kind of get leads or know where to go.
I want to caution you terribly. Tucker Carlson is not a newsman, and he does not have an investigative reporting.
He's got the platform.
There's no investigative reporters working for it.
Consistently bringing it to a mass audience.
Tucker's done great coverage with commentary, but he is not going to do investigative reporting.
No. They're not investigating, but they're riding this subject pretty hard. Do you realize in the last 2 months there has been serious articles on this issue, UAP, now UFO, in Spectator, in Foreign Policy Magazine, in the New Yorker, in Vanity Fair,
2 in the Atlantic,
in Salon in the Atlantic. Let me tell you, the intelligentsia is on board. Okay,
they're digging like crazy. They're digging like crazy.
There's not going to be a Condon report. There's not going to be any.
Help him do a show.
I'm sorry.
I said Anderson Cooper can call me anytime, and I'll help him do a show.
So at some point, I'm wondering when the other two, the CNN, MSNBC, whose record on this is awful, and I don't quite understand it.
Well, Anderson Cooper has had 2 segments.
That's it.
Yeah, right. 2. But at least it's not 0.
It's not 0, but it's not much, I assure you. And I don't quite understand it, but they'll get around to it. I assure you, they will. Yeah. But that will be big. Look, I'm hoping to get on MSNBC, Shannon. I've got some plans. I'm working it. Right. I've been out of the game for a while, but
you got to do that.
I'm trying.
The watershed
will go on vacation, and they won't be able to get to him. And
the watershed event for me was 60 Minutes.
Danny Sheehan told me 2 nights ago that Luis Elizondo has 1 definitely and possibly 2 more stints on 60 Minutes coming up.
Yeah, and there's something else in the works that I cannot discuss, but it is a bombshell. It's just huge, and it's going to drop if everything goes according to plans. And this may or may not be a coincidence, but it could very well drop right in the middle as the hearings are underway. And it's huge. I mean, there's other things. Look, there is so much going on. I can't even keep track of it all. I can't follow it. It is a groundswell. It is about to go boom, boom, but it's nothing like this has ever. We've never been here before. Not in the 50s, not in the 60s.
We've wanted this for the past 40 bloody years.
Yeah.
And now that it's happening, it's like, trying to cook dinner for 25 people and you don't know exactly what to cook.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of complex. So we have to be careful in how we segment this information. So if we as activists and reporters and journalists about this aren't really on board with segmenting these issues in a really kind of logical, cogent way, we may misrepresent ourselves to the general public. So I'm not sure how we do this with the media.
Videos. That's the only thing that's going to win.
Yeah.
Well,
Look,
whatever. I don't know how this is going to work out.
When I talked to Ashley, look, I understand that they're covering this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're going investigative, fine, but we're not going to know about that for a while. Though
Right.
the New York Times has had 3 years, and I think they're going to pop something soon.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, they're covering what's happening. Okay, fine. But as you know, I just told you a little while ago that what's happening is not what it seems. It's kind of a play being staged in order to get to the final act. And so I was trying to convey to her, look, you understand that, okay, what you're writing is true. What you're covering, and you're writing it legitimately, but you're not getting the interpretive. You're not getting the context of it.
Right.
And
Right.
so are you willing to go there? Now that's opinion pieces. Look, I'm going to try to write a opinion piece for the Post that goes there and see if I can get it in. I have one connection. We'll see. I've been waiting because I wanted to be, but who knows? Getting an opinion piece like that, you have no idea. The chance could be 0. It could be 80%.
Exactly.
But that is, all of the papers are that way. No paper out there knows enough of the context. They simply don't. They don't know enough. And so they're covering it as it happens. And I'm sure a lot of them are going, what?
And we say that it seems like they're only scratching the surface. Yeah. Surface
No,
scratching.
but I think Steve would agree, because I've certainly observed it went from just friggin' amateur hour. It's steadily gotten better and better and better, and it finally hit the crescendo when 60 Minutes covered it, and then boom, there's been quality reporting since.
All right, guys, we got 15 seconds. Hey, thank you to our audience. We hit a new record, 404. That is the new record. Thank you to all the super chatters out there. Hour 3 coming up right now.
And remember, that was in 60 Minutes' second significant piece.
Right.
The first one, which was a long time ago,
Would you like to connect
where Bigelow was able to say twice that there's an ET presence here
for all your latest show
again.
info.
And so
Now,
I would love Ashley to kind of go back and
SOR.
review that.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Thank you to everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Quatch. Quatch is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to it. Great panel tonight and great discussion about the preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena. It was leaked today by the Director of National Intelligence at the Pentagon. Joining us tonight from MUFON, Tom Whitmore, Spaced Out Saturday host Lynn Wallington, Nicole Sakach, Steve Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, Science Bob McGwier, and from Zealand Communications, Victor Viggiani. And Tom, I want to start with you on this one. Absolutely nothing to do with extraterrestrial life. We knew that was going to happen. We knew it was obviously not on the table, but deep down there were many of us, Tom, who wanted to hear about them aliens, and we got nothing.
Of course we got nothing. And something that was conspicuously missing from this paper today is anything about space. And if we go back and listen to what Luis Elizondo has said about this phenomenon and about UAP, he said there are 5 observables. There's anti-gravity, there was sudden instantaneous acceleration, there was hypersonic velocities without signatures, low observability, cloaking, and finally, trans-medium travel. In other words, these UFOs, they can come out of the ocean and into the atmosphere and into space, and vice versa. They can go from space into the atmosphere and into the ocean. And no mention of that at all. And that tells me a lot, Dave.
Mhm. For you, Bob, I want to bring you in here on this. You know, obviously they're not ready to talk aliens. They're not going to be talking aliens maybe for years, even decades here. But in the back of your mind, were you hoping that it kind of was leaning into that realm, that we could get into that focus?
I had zero hope that we would hear anything about aliens, but I did hear some good stuff. There has been this absolute ironclad embargo on NASA being involved in any of this. And our new administrator said, I am assigning to Dr. Zabukin and all of the science portions of NASA the task of studying the UAP and see what they are doing. And NASA is already looking for alien life around other planets and other things in our solar system. I think our former senator from Florida, and now NASA administrator, has gone, you cannot keep us quiet anymore. We're going to play in this, and NASA's going to have a part.
You're close. You're close. That I'm glad you saw that. That is a significant development. You see, NASA has been constrained from by the 1958 Space Act from the beginning.
Space Act
agreement. You look for
yes.
extraterrestrials all at once, it just can't find them. You're not allowed to find them. And if you do, you're not going to do anything with it. And you need to look out in the solar system. You can't be looking at the ET phenomena. You can't touch that at all. Okay? That's been the way it is, and they have absolutely done that. And then all of a sudden, and remember I talked about everybody getting in line and all these developments and so forth? NASA announces, we need to look into this. And it just so happens that announcement comes from the new administrator, who just so happens to be the first senator to ever to be the administrator of NASA. And it just so happens that he was on the Senate Intel Committee.
And he is a blood brother. He's a blood brother to Joe Biden.
So you see where I'm going here? All right. If NASA is going to be unleashed, if NASA is going to try to get ahead of this issue, because you see, NASA has some very tough questions to answer. Mr. Administrator, did NASA at any time see anything that indicated extraterrestrial craft? Yeah. 59, 64, 68, 75.
How about all the vehicles flying around the mile-long tether?
So it's going to be tough, but NASA has an answer. We could not say anything, but it's going to be tough on them. And they've got themselves a politician and an Intel guy in there, and he is the first NASA administrator to announce all. And here's another way to look at this. Mission Impossible. Remember Mission Impossible, okay? All the stories had one thing. They create this artificial reality for somebody that fools them into thinking that something isn't. And then they get what they need, and then they reveal, we just created this. That's kind of what's going on now. They're going through this kind of artificial construct in order to get us to a place we need to get to. And they can't do it by just walking up and asking, right? Could we please have hearings now? It's kind of like Mission Impossible, and it's almost as complex, to be honest with you.
And I want to second and emphasize something Steve said. The Space Act was used to completely constrain NASA from talking about aliens, etc. And I would give you an example. I guarantee you Viking found evidence of stuff on Mars, which was pretty conclusive, and they were shut down.
Couldn't say anything.
They were not allowed to say a word.
They've known about life. They've known about ancient life or fossil life on Mars and water for a very long time, but that challenged the truth embargo, and so you don't say anything until we say so.
And Hal Povenmire told Chris Bledsoe he had seen structures on the far side of the moon.
Very possible.
I want to butt in with something that jumps to my mind, maybe precautionary, that is a little nagging red flag to me. Through the course of our history with this, we've talked about it being so compartmentalized. And from that compartmentalization, we know that certain aspects has moved into private corporations, and we can't get at private corporations and the information they have, like Battelle and Lockheed, etc. Well, my fear is we are now seeing the privatization of space. It's not just NASA up there. We have Elon Musk up there, corporations. And so how much of this could get folded into entities like that, never to be seen or heard from again? No government oversight yet again.
I'm not a fan of that theory. The contractors that work under national security strictures, they have great limitations on them. And the idea that the military intelligence complex is literally handing over major classified stuff to hide it from the government, thus losing control of it, I don't think so. I think we'll find that is not the case. Now, the privatization of space is going to happen. That's a given. If you haven't watched The Expanse, best series ever, unbelievable series on whatever the hell it is, Netflix. But I know, I'll make this point. When Mellon and Elizondo stepped out of the TTSA, a lot of people said, why? I knew why. Because the negotiations for the hearings was about to get underway, and they could not be negotiating with the committee staffs while on a public benefit corporation that has movies and books and things and whatever. They can't do that. So they had to be private citizens. They all stepped out. The question is, why did justice step out? And my conclusion was this. While I'm certain that virtually all of the witnesses are going to be military, you don't want anything but military witnesses for hearings like this. There is a legitimate case for some defense contractor witnesses who never turn up. It's very rare. These are people working on ET-related classified programs or deep classified programs where they see something. But they would be legitimate witnesses. And if any of those were going to be vetted, it would be Justice that would do that. Why? Because Justice was associate director at the Skunk Works. He is part of that world. It makes sense that he would step out and may be part of the negotiations. So again, the three most important people step out. The hearings are being called for by certain members. The report is coming in. You see where this is going. And I'll make another prediction. Well, I'll put it this way. Try to divide the world in half as you look into the future. Pre-disclosure world, post-disclosure world. Or if you're Richard Dolan, AD, BD, after disclosure, before disclosure, whatever. Okay. There are things that can happen pre-disclosure, and there are things that can only happen post-disclosure. And so we will have pre-disclosure hearings that are sufficient to get the president to be able to confirm the ET presence. And then we immediately go to the post-disclosure hearings. And the word extraterrestrial will probably come up within 48 hours. Not a year, not 2 years. We'll go there immediately. All right, because we have to. But, and this is another reason why disclosure is so important. So many of the things that we know are there and we're going to learn about are a problem. They are huge public relations issues for agencies and people and everything else. It's really going to be tough. It's going to be hard. There's some stuff there people are going to be kind of really irritated about. But if it happens in the post-disclosure world, it's not so bad, and here's why. Disclosure means that all 7 billion people on the planet within a week are all going to know we're not alone. There's ETs here, thanks to the internet, Facebook, all that good tech. All right. 7 billion people know we're not alone. And guess what? They're going to be interested in more. Tell me more. What about them? What do they do? Where are they from? And we're just excited. And then something comes up about the Air Force lied to us for 20 years. Most of the people in the world could give a damn. So in the post-disclosure world, most of the troubling public relations stuff will be mitigated by the enormous enthusiasm of the world's population. But until we get there, anything like that comes out is a big problem. And that's another reason why you've got internal support for getting the truth embargo over, because until we end that truth embargo, all these agencies are living in paranoia that, oh my God, somebody's going to find out how much we lied and what we did and what we said and all of that. All that pretty much dissipates with one simple statement from the president. We're not alone.
They can't do that, though.
Yeah.
It can't
No,
do it that way.
no, but do you think, Steve, and also this to the rest of the group, do you think that the president, in some way or another, is being prepared for the eventualities that you're suggesting? I mean,
the president of the United States is part of the Clinton universe. The president of the United States knew about this a long time ago. And he has, interestingly enough, I don't know how deliberate it was, but he has in 47 years in Washington.
Are
he
you
has
talking
pretty
about?
much stayed out of this issue.
Are you talking about the current president or the
Talking about the current
president of
president.
the United States generically?
No, I'm saying that Biden has been briefed on this from the Clintons, from Podesta.
For sure.
He's
yeah,
part of
okay.
their world.
That's right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
He was the vice president for 8 years under Obama. Who was the Secretary of State? Clinton. Who was the Secretary of Defense and the CIA director? Panetta. Who was he? Chief of Staff to Clinton during the Rockefeller Initiative. Right?
It's been rambling around the White House for 20 years.
And the one thread, right, that runs through all of this from 1993 right till now, and recently he's had some very interesting quotes.
Right.
A man who will get a lot of historical coverage. His biography is going to be very interesting. There will be movies. John Podesta.
Right.
He is the link from 93 all the way to the present. His role is interesting and provocative. He's made some mistakes, but he has been consistent all of these years. And of course, Obama hired him to be his transition chair. So Biden has known this. He probably even knew what Clinton's intentions were when she was running for president. He has stayed out of it, wisely so. There was nothing he could add to it. And now he is president. And he's going to be the disclosure president. And he's going to cooperate in any way he can to make that possible. And he has, I'm certainly been persuaded that, Mr. President, we're going to hold hearings. You're going to watch the hearings, and then you're going to be able to tell the American people, pretty clear to me, I'm sure it's clear to you, there's ETs here, and people are going to love you. And they're not going to come after you. There's no reason for them to blame you for anything. And they're going to build a mall monument to you, on the mall downtown.
Nicole, you've been pretty silent here for a little bit. Let's get your opinion.
I'm soaking it all in. I do agree that this current climate has been pushed by Podesta, and that books and movies will be made. He'll be hailed as a hero. I still go back and forth. I'm hesitant to think that a sitting president is gonna speak about this unless it's the big time, because it's not just disclosure for the United States. If Biden would say this, that's disclosure for the world. So if he's maybe pushed, I don't know. We haven't even brought ICER into this conversation, and they're pushed, to eventually get this in front of the UN. So
more the merrier. We got a group of people that created a PAC, second PAC. I was the first. But you brought up something very important. Here's one good reason why Biden needs to help get these hearings and disclose. Well, you want to be the president of the United States when Vladimir Putin is the one that divulges to the world, the extraterrestrial president? Do you want to be that president?
I mean, I don't know. The French have been pretty open with what they want, and I think they've been pushing the U.S. for years.
That's the Cometa
now.
report. I'm talking about Putin goes in front of the cameras and says there's an extraterrestrial presence. And by the way, here's some ET bodies. We have them too. And you're the president of the United States, and you have to explain to the American people how Vladimir Putin confirmed the ET presence and not you. Do you want to be that president?
Well, that's the international turnstile on this issue, Steve. Exactly, because if we think that the United States has a lock on this issue, we're sadly mistaken. I mean, it's quite clear that all the NATO communities must have, and we have to assume that they must be sort of in concert with this whole issue. So how do those countries come into play with whatever statements the president might make?
It's simple. Our president announces the ET presence, and the rest of them, the next couple of days,
just follow suit.
Confirm the ET presence. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, I don't want Putin to be the disclosure president. You want to know why? Because in 2017, I went to Moscow and gave a 2-hour interview to REN TV, which is their most popular national network. And in that interview, which is on the internet and in the hands of the FSB, I talked openly about Putin as someone that could be the disclosure president and what his thoughts might be on the subject. And so if he ends up doing it, that thing is going to eventually emerge, and I'm going to have some social media problems here. Okay,
Well,
because they're going to blame it on me.
Tom Whitmore,
it's his fault.
Tom Whitmore, you want to make a comment?
I just don't see it happening this way. In the first place, and don't get me wrong, I want disclosure. I want disclosure as much as anybody. Congress has hearings all the time. They're constantly having hearings about all kinds of things, and it doesn't necessarily move the earth. Secondly, the president just can't come out and announce that we have ETs. They have to have proof that they can offer to the American people and to the world. That means recovered UFOs and bodies, or maybe even real live aliens. And they can't do that. And secondly, the authorities in society have to be prepared. They must be prepared for it. Now, the media seems to be on its way here, but you have the academic community, you have the scientific community, you have the religious community. All of these authorities in society have to be prepared for a really major disclosure. And I don't see that happening right now. And it would go through a process where they would start out trying to be secret, and then it would become an open secret, and then it would become common knowledge, and then something would actually happen. I don't see any of that happening right now. And
right.
I'm sorry to rain on your parade, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand. I think the world is over prepared. We've been marinated in extraterrestrial stuff since 1951. 450 roughly films about extraterrestrials. Some of the highest grossing films ever. Churches have been making comments. The Catholic Church can't go a month without publishing something about, we could probably baptize them, whatever the hell. The American public is running about 49% that the phenomenon is real, probably 25% more probably on the fence. No, we're more than ready. And if you look at social media and the podcasts and so forth, the scientific community will be on board in about 10 minutes. Okay. 10 minutes after the president confirms it, they're all going to be calling each other about, okay, who's going to be the head of the extraterrestrial division of our politics branch? Who's going to be exobiology head? All that kind of stuff. They'll be writing papers immediately and getting in front of cameras and saying, well, I am one of the leading authorities on the extraterrestrial issue.
Right.
I am at a fine university. Believe me, boom, just like that. And the media will swarm us. Contactees will be in demand. They'll have to have talent dance cards, If you're a known contactee, you'll have 400 papers.
I love how Steve is the eternal optimist.
Have to be if you're going to be an activist, my friend. If you're not an optimist and you take the activist path, you might as well just shoot yourself because you're going to have a terrible time.
Less than 2 minutes before we got to go to break, our final break at the bottom of the hour. Science Bob, I want to ask you, you got a lot of friends in the intelligence community, and we may have to carry this one over when we come back. But what is happening right now through this within the intelligence community after this preliminary assessment?
Okay, so this preliminary assessment would not have come out if there were not an ongoing process happening all through government to prepare whatever the next step is. So there's some plan, and we don't know the details, but there's some plan, and it's ongoing. And so there's what shape it's going to be, who's going to provide what evidence, what branch of the military, the intelligence community, et cetera, is going to talk about next. They're planning the next report already.
Okay, but is it a scramble right now?
No, it's not a scramble because this has been prepared since Clinton was going to be elected president, but wasn't.
Okay, so what steps, for us who don't know how it works, what steps are going to be taken? We got 45 seconds.
All through government, position papers are being moved around amongst decision makers. All through government. It happens every time. All through government. All of government is allowed to mark and chop on what is the next position.
All right. When we come back with our panel for our final half hour, one of the topics I want to get into tonight that we haven't really touched on is we haven't looked at the history. There's no history previous to 2004 and the U.S. Nimitz event before that incident. There's a lot of UFOs, sightings, reports, crashes, abductions of people previous to that. This report really hammered down that it's 2004 and up. Stephen Bassett from Paradigm Research Group, Science Bob McGwier from MUFON. We have Tom Whitmore, Saturday night host on Spaced Out Radio, Lynn Wallington, researcher Nicole Sakach, Zealand Communications, Victor Viggiani, and myself. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio in the final half hour right after this.
The answer to that question, Dave, is that was intentional.
All right, we're clear.
The answer is that was intentional from the beginning. They're going to start it at Nimitz, run it forward, because everything that happened previous to 2004,
bunch of crimes, a bunch of crimes and a bunch of ugliness.
Well, whatever it was, it's too much to get through the door. You can't lay that on the members of Congress or anything else. You got to have a defined thing, key cases, gun camera footage. You need, because all you're trying to do is get hearings. You're not trying to educate the entire Congress to the 74 history of this issue, 4-year history. And so, and there's so much complexity. So they've narrowed it and to the area they want, and that's where they're staying. Now, post-disclosure, everything's on the table. But first we have to get to post-disclosure world. You can't do it in the pre-disclosure world. The Congress is not going to address it. And you probably noticed that contact is simply not on the table. I was shocked when they included contact in the final episode of Unidentified on the History Channel. That was a bold move. But you may note that the people that they were talking to, contactees, were military. But that's not on the table. They cannot deal with the contact issue pre-disclosure. And so the contactees are going to continue to be hung out to dry until we end the truth embargo. Then they will have their day. In other words, you just got to divide it up this way. It's the way to get there.
So I think things did change. Let's call it around the end of the Bill Clinton presidency. I look. Let's suppose Melinda Leslie and Lorian Fenton and on are telling us the truth. Let's take that as a proposition. They're telling us the truth. They're going to expose Milab's abductions? No, those are crimes.
Let me put it this way. I can't look. The post-disclosure world is going to go on for a long time. There will be things that'll come out in the first month, the third month, the 8th month, the 9th month of the post-disclosure world. So when something comes out, I cannot say. I can imagine that the most troubling, difficult stuff will kind of be put back, and they'll try to go
as far as it can.
Yeah, okay. But how long? I don't know. I know that once the door is open and the media is fully engaged and on our side, it's going to be tough. All of the researchers, including Leslie, Melinda, are suddenly going to be validated, and the press are going to be talking to them, and the stories are going to come out. And so,
I think a law will be passed, and we'll have a truth and reconciliation,
as well as amnesty. Both of those should. I'm going to support both. Of those.
They are mandatory.
Absolutely, no problem with that. No problem. I'll be publicly supporting that.
You won't stop. You will not stop civil lawsuits, but never mind. We'll see.
Well, it's America. You got to sue. It's actually part of the Constitution, isn't it? Something about we have to sue. Anyway.
Victor had enough of us.
He's done.
I don't know. I would like to see some sort of experience or protection. So if they don't find something, or so when they find out something they don't like, they don't start rounding us up and throwing us in cages to find out information. They've already been abducting us for 50 years under the guise of alien abduction, and it's really our own government. This stuff infuriates me. And this stuff will never see the light of day because they'll never let it see the light of day.
I don't think they're going to have they may not want it to do, but I don't think they're going to be able to contain it.
No, I don't either.
It's too big.
Once it starts, it'll be an avalanche.
This isn't the Tuskegee experiment. This is global, massive, all kinds of research, and we have massive communication ability amongst ourselves. No, it's all going to come out.
The reason why they're not going to let it happen because they lose control.
Yep.
That's why they haven't let it happen so far.
Yeah, it really is. But what I keep wondering, is there some event that they know is going to occur which is the forcing function.
Don't know. I don't know.
That's
It's an
Dave's
unknown.
theory.
I can't address it. Who knows? I mean, we had plenty of events. Lord knows. I'm 2 blocks from my office is 2 blocks from the Capitol, and I watched an insurrection take place. I didn't think to see that coming. I didn't think I'd ever see that in my
Who
lifetime.
thought that would happen?
Yeah,
I
who
didn't-
knew? Who knew?
I didn't think that would happen. I
And,
just couldn't believe it.
So,
Congress can't even come to an agreement to have a national commission on it. How are they going to come to an agreement to disclose the truth about UFOs?
because very good question. And that's one of the reasons Rubio has made his move. It's another reason why Tucker is getting some actually favorable email, is that this is the first big, definitely nonpartisan issue they've had a shot at in a long time. And they can address this without getting into partisanship, look good, ask nice questions, and they desperately need some good press. So this is actually, there's something they want to embrace it.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you all to hold on here because we're coming back in about 15 seconds. I think we lost Victor. Victor may have.
It is 2:30 here, Dave.
Yeah, I know. Blame me. But damn it, we got a good panel. Thank you to all the super chatters. Here we go with the final half hour right now. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for going on here and tuning us in. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our panel. We have Science Bob McGwier, Lynn Wallington from the Saturday Show, Nicole Sakach, researcher from the Paradigm Research Group, Stephen Bassett, and from MUFON, we have Tom Whitmore. And I'll tell you, this is a show that has flown on by tonight. And Lynn, I want to kind of get you involved here because you and I have been pretty quiet here tonight. Normally we're the loudmouths, and yet we've been pretty darn quiet. What is something, Lynn, when you look at the entire facade of everything that is really sticking out to you, whether for the good or whether from the not so good?
I think for the good, we're all talking about it. Like, that to me is the best thing that's happening right now. It's starting the conversation, and not just amongst us in the UFO community who've been talking about it for years, but the general public is now interested in it. When I talk to people who aren't into UFOs and they find out that I am, they ask questions. They're excited. They're interested. They want to know. And this is all fueling that curiosity. And I think that that's fantastic. And if nothing else, that's a win.
Anybody else agree with that? Nicole?
Yes.
I
Okay.
agree with it. Yes, I do. This is a win. It is a definite win, but there's a lot more pieces on the playing table that need to fall into place for it to be the ultimate win. And not to stir the pot or anything, but I honestly wouldn't care if Putin announced to the world, if it got the ball down the field, let's just do it. If it forced us into some position, let's do it. China could as well. I don't care.
Does it have to be the United States, though, Bob?
No, it doesn't have to be the United States. I personally would prefer it to be the United States, but I'm not such a jingoist. I need it to be. If we got disclosure, I'm a happy camper.
Long term, it doesn't matter. Short
It doesn't
term, it
matter.
will. Short
Yeah,
term,
it will
there will
matter.
be some geopolitical implications there that will be a problem. But long term, no. History is just it'll be an unfortunate thing, sad. But our politics is very, very dysfunctional, and we've blown a lot of stuff, and we could definitely screw this up too. So, but I'm trying to be optimistic.
I'd like to get your optimistic opinion on this. Daniel Sheehan has mentioned a few times over the last week that this social movement of ufology is going to have to combine forces with other social movements to continue pushing this forward. Maybe like climate change activists, etc. What are your thoughts on that? And who could ufology combine forces with to keep?
I'm aware of this a little bit.
Congress?
That's a post-disclosure thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We need to focus right now on the prize. The prize is disclosure. Once you get that, then in the post-disclosure world, I think that will be an optimal time for groups in various areas of activism to come together, to be more influential. But now, as we're trying to get to that prize, it's a huge distraction. We need to keep our energies focused on the prize. This has always been the case in major activist movements, such as the civil rights movement. There were people that wanted to go here and go there and whatever. And the leaders were saying, look, first, let's get the Voting Rights Act. Let's get the Civil Rights Act. And then we can get to these other places. So, but Danny's a big thinker and he's got big plans, but so do I. But I would say, look, man, just keep Lou on the straight and narrow. Let's just move forward here. Let's let Biden be the disclosure president. And then, all things are possible.
We're going to see what happens very soon with that. But for any of you out there, do you see this, or let me rephrase it. What is the next course of action here that you are seeing? Tom, let's start with you.
Well, I can tell you what I hope, and that is that they'll continue with these investigations, that they will form a plan, that they will try to put together the systems, to gather and analyze the data, that they'll try very hard to put all this data together in a format that can actually be evidentiary toward an explanation for this phenomenon. I very much would love to see congressional hearings about this. I'm not against it. And if that occurs, now, something I think that we have to remember is that if in this situation, the real report or the real assessment has been classified and the public is getting the crumbs, then couldn't the same thing happen in congressional hearings? In other words, the actual hearings, the meat of the hearings are classified and the public doesn't really get to hear the good stuff. And I could very easily see that happening. But my hope is that the Department of Defense will continue with this UFO program that they've started. Now, it is a possibility that it could die. And I know I'm really sounding like the pessimist here tonight, but I'm trying to be realistic because the composition of the Senate and the House committees could change over time. Biden could be, someone else could be elected president. Another director of national intelligence could be appointed. So things could change, but my hope is it will continue as it started.
All right, Science Bob, what step do you see coming next?
I'm with Tom. I think we want to continue to see investigations. I want to see the intelligence community and the armed services committees force people in the UAPTF to be read in to things that they have not been read into. The person who is in charge of UAPTF was 2 grades down from the person who was in charge of that committee right after Elizondo, and he was a big-time activist, and they moved him out to keep him quiet and put somebody who was much junior and not read in. So if we do not take these functional requirements for people in the UAPTF, give them access, open the door, give them status, we are not going to go where we need to go. So we need to see movement in that stuff.
One more question for you, Bob, before we get reaction from our other panel. Here's one thing that I have noticed. All of the United States' major allies have been very, very quiet about this. Canada, Great Britain, France, even though they've never won a thing, Australia, all right? All the big ones have literally not said a thing. I know we have been trying to push the media up here in Canada to get this subject going. They're covering it, but they have not asked a single politician a Canadian response question. And that blows me away. We're paying for reporters to cover Washington, D.C., who are not asking the Canadian angle on it. All right, this is where it's getting ridiculous. Why are the allies so silent about this? Has the United States, being the big brother to each and every one of us, literally said to the smaller peons, shut up, we're controlling this scenario?
I don't think, given the current world, that shut up works anymore for us and our allies. I think that we can convince them that it's in their best interest and our best interest, the neoliberal Western democracies, to work together and not cause a real problem. So I believe that we can be persuasive to say, look, let's follow this path. And we're at the point now where they're following some kind of path. And the reason I keep coming back, Dave, there's a forcing function event. And we have revealed that forcing function event to all of our allies, and they've fallen in line. And I don't believe it's an order. I believe we've convinced them. And because nothing else will keep, I mean, look at who leads the countries all around the world. They're very independent thinkers. They're not all of the same political philosophy. Some are conservatives, some are liberals, some are very, very different. But even the worst of them, all the way to the best of them, have fallen in line. I think there is a big secret, which is the forcing function, and that has been used to corral everybody to work together.
Nicole, you were nodding your head.
Mute.
I think I was stretching because I'm getting tired, but I agree. There hasn't. I would like other countries to step up. I just would. I think that they're waiting, just like there's still this whiff in the air that it could be China's tech or could be Russia tech or others. I think everybody's still waiting to make sure that is absolutely off the table. That's what I think.
Lynn?
I think everybody is waiting, but I think they're waiting to see what happens. You know, before they take that step themselves, they're just kind of sitting back and watching and saying, okay, let's just see what happens here. And then how do we handle it going forward?
I think that's a big thing, but I know we also have to understand that there are people, whether it's Australia, the UK. I mean, the UK is not relying on Nick Pope to bring this story forward. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Mr. Brillo Pad here, as good as he is for information, literally needs to open up, because all he's doing is repeating what everybody else has said. He's not bringing anything to the table, in my opinion. All right. Maybe that's why he won't come on the show. But that's for a different story at a different time. But the fact is, there is no talk around this. We don't hear what's happening in Australia. We don't hear what's happening north of the border. We all know that every military is having these encounters. We're hearing about it secretly. I talked to a 20-year veteran of the Canadian Navy who said, when we were out at sea, we knew it was either a Russian, but if it looked too technologically advanced, we knew it wasn't American because we were told. He goes, it was something else. This is a guy who spent 22 years in the Canadian Navy. But we don't have that David Fravor coming out in Canada talking about what they saw flying a CF-18 Hornet or intercepting. We know the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, has taken reports and they automatically send them to NORAD at Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado. But it's not on record. Canada will not go on record. So with nobody going on record, Steve Bassett, of the allies right now, realistically, how do we build this or spread this message out when everybody's eyes are looking to the U.S.? The media from every one of those countries is following what the U.S. media is doing. Nobody's taking their own stance and asking their own questions.
Well, First of all, there's been a lot of media about this out of the U.S. There have been hundreds of articles in the U.K. press. They're linked on my website. Got some Canadian articles, some Australian articles. But again, the proper context. All of our allies and the Soviet Union and China knew there was an extraterrestrial presence no later than the mid-50s. A lot of them knew 47. The Soviets had their own spies. They found that about Roswell through their own spies. So again, our allies have known there's an extraterrestrial presence this whole time. Okay, once you get that in your head, it helps a little bit. Our allies went along with us on this embargo. They followed our lead. Nobody should be shocked about this. This embargo started in the late 40s, early 50s. You may recall what was going on back then. The Soviets and the Chinese had their own reasons for keeping silent on this. It wasn't to help us. And so the truth embargo was set. And it's now been going on for 74 years. But they know. It's not a matter of, can we convince the Canadian government that no, they already know there's ETs. They are following our lead. Now, there has been an extra degree of quietness, not necessarily the press, but no governments are saying anything about this because they know what's going down and they don't want to get in the way, right? In other words, they don't want to upstage us. They know where we're going. And so let's just let it happen, right? I'm sure the Prime Minister of Canada would probably prefer to follow Joe Biden and not try to get out in front of this and be. In fact, he couldn't be. He could do it, but it would be all wrong, right? The only two people we have to worry about are Xi Jinping and Putin. If they stay silent, we're going to get this brass ring, and our allies will follow. But they are being unusually silent now because they don't want to get in the way of what is going down. We're almost at the finish line. Right, we're practically there. So just everybody's going to relax and chill out.
Sure.
And let it play out. If you can chill. Some people can't chill.
The boys from Third Phase of Moon are asking, I think it's a very positive question. The major media refuses to explore video and testimony evidence of civilians. When, Tom Whitmore, do we get the opportunity to see civilians reporting their findings and the media covering it? Will we get there?
Yeah, and I think that's a possibility now, Dave, because with all of these developments toward quote unquote disclosure, there and all of this media interest, and with this release of information by the government, I think there's a distinct possibility that serious investigative journalists could get involved in this subject, and that's a really good thing. That's a really positive thing. And there are a couple already, the Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keane and Ross Coulthard from Australia. But if some other ones get involved and they really start digging, they're going to have to come to the UFO community because we're the people that actually know the history. We're the people that really know the ins and outs of the phenomenon, all of the aspects, all of the elements of the phenomenon, because most of the people that are in the press now, they might be starting to get interested in it, but most of them know very little about the subject. And you pointed this out, Dave, yourself. So I think if some of these journalists get serious about the subject, they're going to need to come to people in the UFO community. That will be people like us who are knowledgeable about things about UFO history and such. And then they'll be going and talking to UFO witnesses and UFO abductees and such people. And this will be tremendous progress if this happens. And I think that's a distinct possibility now.
Nicole, I want to get you in here because you are an experiencer of the phenomena. And I think it's important to try and get as much of that as possible in there. We only got about 3 minutes, Nicole. So I want you to explain what this would mean to you to have the public taking people such as yourselves who've experienced the phenomena to a more public forum.
Well, honestly, I've seen a shift over this last year. I think more and more experiencers are, to use their terminology, becoming activated. They realize that it's a part of their job to spread the word and educate people on this topic. And Tom was right. We are the ones that know the history of this subject, and they're going to have to turn to us. And I've been saying since the Wilson Davis documents came out a year ago, this is bringing on the dawn of the experiencer. And we are going to get a voice in this eventually. And I think that is going to come as the stigma of that we're all crazy tinfoil hat wearing weirdos goes away. You know, we might keep the tinfoil hats because we like them now, but we're not all lunatics. We're not all making this up. More and more and more of us are coming forward every day, and people are realizing that we're your neighbors. We're the person next door. If you believe some of the statistics from great researchers, there's one experiencer in 40 people, 1 in 40. And that's just based on who actually comes forward and reports. So we know there's more of us out there. We just need to keep this in the limelight. The dawn of the experiencer.
The experiencers will soon have their day, I assure you. It's
Lynn
coming.
Wallington, you're an experiencer as well. Would you concur with what everybody's saying?
I would concur. Yes, I think the dawn of the experiencer sounds amazing. And I hope that does happen. And I think that it would be wonderful for everybody who has been talking about all of this to be validated by that acknowledgement.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're going to see some validation throughout our history. You know, I think the brave people that have come forward at the first citizens hearing, you know, I think of Travis Walton and Christopher Bledsoe all the way back to George Adamski. You know, there's going to be some redemption here for a lot of folks. And
it also opens up a lot of doors too, as Bob McGwier said, to my labs, to MK Ultra projects. Those are the scenarios that are still going to be so deep down undercover that we might not ever see the light of day. I want to say a big thank you to everyone on this panel tonight, because it has been one hell of a good ride today. We are all exhausted. We have all worked very hard. I think we're all tired of hearing speakers and people talking, because we probably spent most of the day on the phones chatting with everyone and anyone who we could get information from. Science Bob McGwier, thank you so much for coming on. From MUFON, Tom Whitmore, thank you again, my friend, for joining us. Stephen Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group, we appreciate your knowledge. Victor Viggiani, who had to pull on out a little bit ago, probably because he's in Ontario and he's still crying over the Montreal Canadiens making the Stanley Cup final. We'll give him that one. Nicole Sakach, much appreciate you and your work with Grant Cameron. And of course, my good cohort here on Saturday nights, the lovely and talented Lynn Wallington. You were absolutely amazing tonight. What a great panel. We will always be up front and right on top of the UFO phenomena here on Spaced Out Radio. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone tuning on in on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, Facebook, and everybody chatting away on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor.
You better.
We need you to take us home.
Take us right on home.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yep, we've got room for them too. Good night. I'm not gonna lie, that was a fuck yeah kind of show tonight. Hey, fuck yeah. I know that's not professional right now, but I don't care. I'm pumped up. I am pumped up.
It's fun.
My,
It was fun.
goodness. My goodness.
Lynn,
that was
Lynn, I
good
wanted
stuff.
to say hi. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you.
Oh, I know. Hi, Tom. I have your number. I have to give you a call about chatting.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet all of you. Nice to meet you. Steven, how you doing, man?
He's got to be sleepy.
Oh,
You're
he's
muted.
on mute.
You muted.
He's muted himself.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm good. I'm going to be heading over to the White House in a little bit because they got a brunch going. Late night brunch. Go over there, have a snack. I have a pass, you know. I can get in. Great show. You know, you really are a pro. You should have some big deal on Sirius XM or something. You know what you're doing.
Shit. No shit.
I mean,
One
yeah,
day,
you're
one
good.
day we may be lucky. One
Yeah.
day we may be lucky. You know, we'll see.
But this was cool. I really enjoyed it, and this is a special day. What happened was still pretty special, and we're on it. And then there's this contact in the desert is happening this week too. I got 2 things going on there. There's 897 speakers. It's online. I don't know what the hell's going on. I can't keep up with everything.
Oh, I wouldn't go to that, but I'm going online because I couldn't take it going all the way out there. I'm going online though.
Yeah. No,
It's gonna be
I miss the
crazy.
in-person conferences. I really like. I love going to them, and I hope they come back. But again, this thing is a massive event, and I hope to God it comes off all right. Whatever.
One of the reasons I would really like the in-person conferences is for 2.5, almost 3 years, I've been the moderator and administrator of Richard Dolan's forum, and I've never met him.
Right.
Yeah, there's that.
A few weeks ago.
There's
It's
that.
hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, I used to be
Oh,
a baby
no.
boomer.
Oh, no.
Now I'm a baby zoomer.
No, I talk to him multiple times a week, so that's not the issue. It's just we've never shaken hands.
Hey, that's the same with me and Grant. That's why I'm going to Laughlin again in November. I've got to meet him.
Wait a minute. He's been calling you his assistant for a long time now, and you've never.
I know, but I don't live in Canada. Everybody thinks I'm in Canada, and I'm not. I'm in the States, and I've never met Grant face to face. No.
Yep.
Well, that's the new world, folks. Get used to it.
Yep.
In-person contact is so passé.
I don't know. I think what I experienced at MegaCon 2 weeks ago, it's like everybody is in personal contact withdrawal. Like they're so happy to be around other people. Like people that don't normally hug are like, get over here and give me a hug.
Yeah.
Like,
I think educators are finding remote teaching is a disaster for children, but corporations are finding out they're saving shit tons of money by not having their employees in an office, and they're happier and as productive as they were. So there's got to be some kind of happy medium.
Steve Bassett, I'm going to tell you right now that if I run into you again down at a conference, I'm going to hug the fuck out of you. I'm just telling you that right now. Come here, big boy. Give Dave a big bear hug.
And let people gossip. Let them think what they want. Hey, look, the whole world has been introduced to the fact that you actually can do everything online.
Yep.
Bezos is going to eventually become a trillionaire and buy the moon. And over the next 2 years, I'm serious now, tens of thousands more box stores are going to go bust. They're going to be empty. And so one of the things that Biden needs to do is they need to start repurposing all these closed up box stores into some sort of social programs. Because I'm telling you, people, it's all we've all really got online now. We're serious about it. Buy everything there. Why on earth do you want to drive through traffic and go to some mall when you can order it? I bought everything online for 14 months. And so that's big changes are coming. And a lot of people are not going back to the office. The building I'm in is like deluxe remodeled recently. It's fantastic. It's 40% empty. Actually, it might be 50% empty. And so I'm thinking, wow, there's going to be some serious changes here. I don't know
Have you
what's gonna
seen?
happen.
Have you seen the cameras? Look at Times Square. It's no friggin' traffic.
I know.
I can't
It'll
believe
come
it.
back.
I hope it does. I love New York City.
I've never been. I've never.
And we'll
Oh,
all
I-
have
oh, I love-
podcasts. Everybody's
I
going to
love
have a podcast, and the only people you can interview are other people with podcasts. So the podcasters are all interviewing each other. I have a podcast. I just haven't really got it going yet. It's only done one thing. But believe me, one day it'll be huge, huge, I tell you. But how many people here have a podcast? You got one, Dave. I've got one. Who else has got one? Anybody else? 3 out of 6. Okay, well, that's half.
No friggin' way.
So that's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to mean, but there you go. So it's a new world, folks.
It is.
So for at least 4 out of 6 people on this panel are experiencers. Are you, Steve?
I beg them. Come,
I'll be right back,
Please.
guys.
come and get me, right? Right. I am happy to volunteer for whatever the hell program you're in.
Well, I can tell you how.
Nothing.
I can tell you how. Go visit Chris Bledsoe. It's
Oh.
automatic.
Okay. Well, now I know. All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
go
no,
visit
I'm
Chris
not yet
Bledsoe.
had that privilege. I've just not had that privilege.
I shook Jim Peniston's hand and my phenomenon kicked up like 50%.
Wow, really? That's
I
crazy.
joke about that because I was so excited to go meet him. I'm like, I'm going to shake the hand that touched the craft, you know.
There you go.
But that was the same time frame when I was diving into contact modalities as well. So yeah, I touched the hand and contact modalities took over.
Wait a minute. You've been Grant's assistant for all this time, and you're just now reading contact modalities?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't read it at all. I own it and I haven't read it, but it's because, well, it's like so many of us have found our
I'm
way-
teasing you. I'm teasing you. The pace that you are following, working with Grant, is insane.
But what I discovered is like I found all these different contact modalities and based from other experiencers. And then it's like, Grant's like, I wrote a book on that. It's like, well, of course you did, you know? So the same way with the music book, I found all this music research and talked with like download experiencers and then played this whole music game with trying to find.
I mean, a lot of people don't know, Steve.
And Grant wrote a book.
A lot of people don't know that Grant was basically nuts and bolts. Went to visit Chris Bledsoe, told the music was everything, and totally changed him into a consciousness freak. That was all Chris Bledsoe's doing.
Let me tell you a story about Grant. I've known him a long time. We were going to write a book together.
Mm-hmm.
It was all going to be about presidents and UFOs, sort of. And I actually was able to sell the book to Trident Publishing in New York.
Wow.
High-end deal. And even got an advance. But he was nervous about it. And then he dropped out, and I had to talk him about in, right? And then I went through a bad stretch psychologically, and I just couldn't do it. And I couldn't deliver the book. And I don't think Grant minded too much. He said, look, you just do it. And the thing he didn't realize, I was falling apart. And so the book did not happen. And I actually gave the advance back to Trident, which they had a heart attack because nobody does that. and then Larry Holcomb basically wrote the book that we were going to write. It would have been a little differently. And that was going to be a big deal. This is back in 2006. And so, okay, but remember, Grant did pull out. And so, okay, then time goes by, and suddenly he turns into a massive author. He's writing books all over the place. Boom, bam, boom, bam, boom. I should get some credit for this. I got him in that mode of thinking, right? Write a book. And
he had the download experience too.
Yeah, the download experience was a big deal.
That's right. He did have one of those, didn't he? I've asked for that too. I don't get that. I don't get download experiences. I don't get squat.
You know who writes more books than Grant Cameron? And that's Preston Dennett.
Who?
Preston Dennett.
Oh, Preston. Yeah.
He's on
29
like 30
books.
or 32.
30 books, yeah.
But you know who's number one, right? Who's written the most books amongst our ilk?
Who?
Can you guess? Kevin Randall.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I did not
Check him
know
out.
that.
Check him out.
Well,
Yeah,
he's
I
a
own a few
he's a
Randalls.
fantastic investigator.
Yep.
He's a writing machine. He writes novels and stuff. He writes all kinds of. But he's written a lot of novels.
he
He's
does.
I think he's written 46 books, something like that. He's sly that way. But that's all he does. He has this basement and he just writes books. You rarely see him outside of his house. and so yeah, some people just have that knack. I just writing a blog piece is like just.
That's what I tell Grant all the time. I'm a talker, not a writer.
Well, soon you'll be able to have automatic transcription of what you say, and you can do it that way.
Right. And that's what he says. Just pull your journals, pull your notebooks, and throw it all into chapters, and somebody else can organize it for you. I'm like, who's going to organize that?
Am I the only one that's getting endless emails and what do you call them?
No. I'm getting constant phone calls and emails.
Yeah, but ghostwriters, people that want to write a book for you. Are you getting those too?
It's just crazy. It's crazy. So a lot of people I have a fair number of friends that know entirely too much about what I did before I left and went to university. And they are talking too much, and the writers are just driving me crazy, wanting me to write these details of my crazy ass life for the government. And I'm just running. I'm hiding.
Well, that's legitimate. These people don't know me from Adam. They're just pestering me with these spam emails about I'm going to ghostwrite a book, right? And it's a thing now. It used to be millions of dollars have been left to you by a prince of Namibia or something, but now it's ghostwriters. How did that become a thing?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I was.
But they want you to pay them a fortune. You're going to be
that far with me.
Yeah, exactly. They want money. They want a cut.
Oh
it's
God!
Easy to self-publish these days. You know, Kindle changed the playbook on that. Like, yeah, self-publish.
Well, Cheryl, Costa, and Linda, they self-published that book. They did a fulfillment entity, and the fulfillment entity worked a deal with Amazon, and boom, they didn't have to go to a publisher.
Yep.
I
love
am a big
that
admirer of Cheryl Costa. That is quite a human being. Let me tell you, she is really amazing. Her life. She needs to write a story of her life, I think. But in any event, she's really thrilled that she's had this kind of impact. I remember when she was writing for I forget the paper, Epic Times or something. Anyway, I forget what it was, and then she got into this. So happy for her. There's a lot of success stories out there, and we are going to get our due post-disclosure, I assure you, because of the internet. Thank you. That's why our work is archived everywhere, so we can easily, point to it, and the press is going to come talk to us, and we're going to have our day, and it's going to be fun. Going to enjoy it.
No, we're all going to be immortalizing these videos forever.
Yes, and there's this. Yes, of course. This will be in the Smithsonian.
We are never escaping.
It's about 3:20 here, so if you don't mind, I think I'll toddle off to bed. It's all right, Kig?
Yeah, I think I am too.
Okay, very good.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Have a good night.
Wow. Science Bob is gone. And then there were three.
As long as we all don't get memorialized like Lou Elizondo's emails, I think we'll be good. Nothing deleted. But I'm going to take the opportunity to say goodnight, y'all, too. But I want to say goodnight to the YouTube chatters. You guys were on fire tonight. I couldn't keep up. Jeez Louise.
I had a brutal time keeping up tonight. Honestly, had a brutal time, but it was so worth it.
It was great.
It's a good problem to have.
It is. What was the max views? What was
we topped out at 404.
Yeah.
And today on Twitter, we gained 50 followers. We're at over 8,000 now on Twitter. So 2 new records.
Woohoo!
2 new records. I'm pretty happy about that. It was all you guys. I just glued it all together, and that's all that really mattered, But man, that was fun. Completely fun.
And Tom, we've got videos to watch, and then we're going to have our own discussion. So I'll talk to you soon.
Set this weekend. We'll talk about it. Okay. It's
Perfect.
great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Dave, thank you Thank you very much. You did a great job.
Oh.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. You guys were the rock stars. You were the rock stars. I just kind of showed up.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Good night.
Tom. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now everybody gets to sit here and watch me edit as we watch that giant number swindle down. You know, I got to tell you that I am wow, I'm just amazed by tonight. Just amazed. I was like a kid in a candy store this morning, and I was telling a friend of mine earlier this morning. This reminded me completely of what it was like at NHL trade deadline when I worked in sports radio, and I'll tell you, it was a very, very hard day, but a good hard. Very good hard day. And wow, the fact that all of you guys came out to support us in what we were doing with our adventures here. We gained a lot of subscribers, a lot of listenership, some people who just haven't listened to the show before. And I appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. And all of our regulars who are normally here each and every night. I mean, you guys were fantastic as well. It was a great chat tonight, and can't thank you guys enough for supporting what we do here on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out. And you guys really do make it all worth it. You really do. And you know, tonight was a hard show. You know, when you're trying to control everything that we are trying to control here, you know, with the show and everything that kind of goes on. And I can finally get rid of these because they're driving me nuts. Oh, it was fantastic. I am worn out. You know, I feel like I should crack a beer after this one. Really do. Really do. And you know what? In the end, I'll be honest with you. I'll kind of give you my final points of everything. Hi, Big J. How are you, buddy? I was not happy with the report. And Captain Shirk, my news lady, put it best. It was a big nothing burger. And that, but we expected that. We really, really expected that. And I was happy with a couple of things. I was happy to finally see, after a bunch of denials, that the United States Air Force is involved. I'm happy to see that the mainstream media is covering this, okay? That they haven't dropped the ball on this topic, as they are so famous to do so on topics they don't want to cover. Getting back to the report, I was happy to see that there wasn't much mention of China. There wasn't much mention of Russia, although the names are in there. It was nice to not see that. I mean, I was disappointed with the threat narrative again, but I also understand when I took a step back and looked at it, I also understand that there's an understanding there because they want to get money for it. They want to get funding. And if they don't put the threat narrative in there, that there is still potentially a threat of something weird and strange, and they don't know what it is, they have to, that's how they're going to get money for it. Grandmaster, I don't smoke hippie lettuce. So, I mean, there were some positives there, guys. There were some real positives there with everything, and we should be happy. We're mainstream news. For years, we have been groaning and moaning about mainstream coverage. Guess what? We are mainstream news. And that's phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal that we made it. We made it. They're taking this story seriously. They're taking this story and giving it the value that it deserves. And we should all be proud. Every experiencer out there should be patting themselves on the back for sticking to their guns and telling people that this phenomena is real. It was absolutely real. And that is so important for what we are doing and what we're trying to accomplish with everything here. Because for so long we have been, many of us have lost friends, we've lost families, we've lost jobs, we've lost coworkers, and this story is only going to get bigger. We have to remember this story is only going to get bigger, and we have to be prepared for that, right? Because it's a stepping stone. As somebody very involved with this told me, we have to remember this is a stepping stone opportunity for everyone in ufology, and it has to come in baby steps. I'll tell you what I didn't like about the report. I think it's bullshit that they didn't go prior to 2004 and the Nimitz case. I know they did that on purpose. They are trying to keep the real hidden coverage out of the way. All right. They don't want us talking Roswell. They don't want us talking Phoenix. All right. And all the other major cases that have happened out there. They don't want us doing that. What they want from us is they want us to give us what they want. At least they're opening the doors. That is a real sign of possibility. However, we have to also understand too, as I stated earlier, there could be a real Pandora's box opened here if all of a sudden we end up getting into a lot of these different types of stories. All right. Everything now, if it's not played correctly, has to be questioned. So if you're not a believer in Bob Lazar, or you're not a believer in Travis Walton, or you're not a believer in John Lear or Betty and Barney Hill or whatever it may be, okay, or Eisenhower meeting with aliens, this whole case with what they are hiding from the past really, really opens up the Pandora's box on whether or not all of those incidents are A, true, B, happened, and C, are they a part of the history, right? And how much are they a part of the history? Because I'll tell you right now, the one thing I don't believe is I don't believe the naivety of the government saying that they don't know about anything that's going on. I think they're playing stupid, and they're playing stupid right in front of the public because they can. They're playing stupid in front of the media because that's how the game is played. I didn't think the minute I saw this going back a couple of months, the minute that I saw that the report was coming out on a Friday afternoon, all right, I knew that they were going to bury this in the afternoon on Eastern time. I knew that. Money Inton, welcome to our channel. Thank you for coming on in. And the reason why they buried it on a Friday is so that way they didn't have to answer public questions about it. There was not going to be a press conference. There was not going to be anything of sorts outside of the report, which dropped around 4:40 Eastern time. Okay. They got all the suits out, everybody who we would want to talk to. Okay. They got their press, their press understanding what was happening. And there's a real government thing, if you haven't noticed before, but in the media, we always laugh because if it's a big story that the government doesn't want to talk about, or they want to judge how people react and the media reacts over the weekend, they will always drop it late on a Friday afternoon. That's the rules. And they play the media game that way. And that's what we saw today. That's what we saw happen. And we literally could not have had any other way of this happening. They didn't want to answer questions. They didn't want their phones working overtime, whether it was the New York Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, CNN, Fox, or podcasters like me. They didn't want that. All right. What they wanted was they wanted to get this story out there to gauge how the media was going to react to it. And I think the mainstream media, who hasn't done a good job in asking a lot of the tough questions, especially the historic questions, did a pretty decent job in going through with that. I still can't believe we got 287 people still watching on YouTube, 295 overall. But yeah, look, I'll tell you right now, the next update will happen on a Friday as well. Almost guaranteed that it will happen on a Friday as well. So that's just the way they tend to do things. And I am worn the hell out. Worn the hell out. What a good day. Hi, Usagi How are you? Usagi sorry. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, I'm just sitting here editing the program for the radio stations right now. You can type them in. Hey, Derek Doherty, how are you, man? I can't start the show over. I got no panel left. But if you guys have any questions, just throw them in the chat room in capital letters. We got about another 10 to 15 minutes to go here, maybe 20 before I'm going to sign off. That's how long it's going to take me to do the editing. So if you have any questions, just ask away and type your questions in capital letters in our YouTube chat. I would appreciate that. And we kind of go from there. And wow, I'm still blown away by tonight's show. Still blown away. I wanted to deliver a panel to you guys that was pretty stellar and awesome, and I think we did that. Totally think we did that. Is there any caves on the moon? I have no idea. I've never been there. If there is, I want to bring my side-by-side up there and go for a ride in them. All right. Armando, are you convinced of ET hypothesis? What about high strangeness and spiritual dimensions? Armando, I am convinced of the ET hypothesis. I do believe there are spiritual dimensions out there. And, you know, that's from the people I'm talking to regarding this phenomena right now. There isn't an understanding of where this is coming from. It's not coming from one particular place. The phenomena is happening from everywhere. It's coming from space. It's coming from inner Earth. It could be coming from different dimensions. It could be time travelers from the future coming back. It could be a excuse me. It could be anything out there right now. That's the way it's going on. That's the way it's happening. Melinda Leslie just messaged me. She had an emergency, had a tour, lots of sightings. Oh, goodness. Hope everything's okay. Oh, good. Nobody hurt. Love you, Melinda. If you're tuned in right now, we love you. Yeah, I think the phenomenon is everything. The phenomena is absolutely everything right now. Thank you, Irish Lincoln. Let's go to Sherry's question. The show was awesome. Get some rest. I will get some rest over the weekend. I promise you that. G West, what blew your mind the most about tonight? Probably when Science Bob stated that there was, that his spook friends saw 40 minutes of videos that absolutely blew their mind right out of a sci-fi type movie. That one really was, I was excited about that. That's the stuff I like to hear. I think that's what really excites me about it. That's what gets me geeked up. I also like the fact that, even though we're all praising that the report came out, we were all disappointed at the same time. We wanted more. There needed to be more. And Stephen Bassett actually surprised me about that, because Stephen is usually very staunch in his activism. And we're finally here where we need to be. And Stephen was, as he stated, he was a little disappointed by what was there, because there wasn't much there overall. But it still doesn't mean that this was a bad night. It just means we didn't get everything that we wanted. But that's got to come. All right, Andrew, do you think there will be a part 2 of the report? Yes. Here's what I think is going to happen. Over the next few days, we are going to see, and probably over the next month, we're going to see some major leaks from the 70-plus page report that was sticking, or that the government got. These things leak, and sometimes they are leaked on purpose, and sometimes they are leaked because people want to get the information out. I see there being leaks in this, and I see there being some major. Thank you, Steam Train Mark. I see us getting more information, and probably another video or two. I really do, and I'm hoping it's something clearer. I really do. But yes, I do believe there will be a part 2, but it's probably not going to happen until next year. Joe, while you're editing, the new listeners might like to hear your experiences with aliens. No, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm worn out. We'll do that one night, I promise you. Is there life in the oceans of Europa? I have no idea, my friend. Ibarata, I love you, man, but I'm sorry, I'm going to bail on that question because I really don't know. All right, skip to Malou. Sorry about your daddy. 2 hours sleep. Listen to the show. Listen to it. Third phase. How you guys doing? Good morning to you, or good afternoon to you. Actually, you're 3 hours behind me. So it's about 9:30 there right now. 9:30. Thank you guys for the super chat earlier, and thank you for everything that you guys do. Do you think we are going to get clear footage from the Navy, from the phenomena, or the public? I'm hoping so, man, but I don't think we're going to get anything. Now, Lou Elizondo, when he was last on the show, said there was one video that is slated for release that is apparently going to blow our minds. I have no idea what that is or what the implications are about that. I really don't. But I do know that he was pretty excited about it, that we could be getting some clear type footage of a video. Whether or not they release it, or it's released to the media, or it goes through Jeremy Corbell again, I have no idea. But I do know. Hold on one second. I'm trying to do too much at once here. 209-556. I do know that there is apparently one video that is complete wow factor. And there is more that's wow factor that just hasn't been released yet. So hopefully it'll come out. Let's see how the politicians react and see what they're willing to give us, because that's what, and the media has to put that pressure on too. The mainstream media has to step up and say, where is this info? Now that the cat is out of the bag, where's the info? Where's the good juice? We don't want the pineapple juice over there. We want the good vitamin C orange juice. That's what we want. And the media has to do their part and making sure that they put enough pressure on it. Will they? I don't have a lot of hope, but fingers crossed that they actually learn how to do their job. Shadow Time. What are your thoughts on Lou Elizondo's father spending time in prison for his part in Operation Northwoods, U.S. government orchestrating violent terrorism in U.S. cities? I have no idea. That's the first time hearing of that, to be blunt. But you usually come up with some good information. I apologize that's the best answer I have. Hello, Terrence. My buddy Terrence. I would love to have a scotch with you, Terrence. I would love to have a scotch with you. Let's make that happen one day again. Sally, how long till the leaks start and this snowballs into the mainstream media? I would say probably next week. We'll probably start seeing some leaks. That's my opinion. Let's see here. Blockchain. Are you going to tell people this happened here? I'm not sure I fully understand your question, Ms. Block Chick. Or is it Block Chic? Block Chic or Block Chick? It looks like Chic. Block Chic. Let me know. Let's see here. Shadow Time. Oh, I've already answered that one. Let's see here. What else do we got? Let's go to Olin here. What do you think about the Habs making the Stanley Cup final, potentially bringing the cup back to Canada this year? Been 28 years. I want Alex Burrows, my favorite Canuck, to get a Stanley Cup ring. When Burrows was with the Canucks in his rookie season, I was the one who tipped him off that he was never going to see another game in the minor leagues. And he was like, really? I'm like, yep, that's what I'm hearing. You'll never see another game in the minors. And he never did. Him and I got along very well. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Carey Price, who is from just northwest of me in my area. He's about 3 hours away. I'm very excited for the Habs. I'm not even a Habs fan, never have been, but I am very, very excited for Les Habitants. I hope they win it. I really do. And I would love to see Shea Weber, another BC boy, get a Stanley Cup ring after a long, illustrious career that he's had in the NHL. I would love to see a lot of good things like that happen. So it would be nice. It would be refreshing. And it'd be really, really cool to see that happen. I'm not going to lie. It would. All right. Azrazel, do you think it's possible for aliens to blow up the White House on July 4th? If they would have, they could have. Or if they could have already, they would have. Let's remember, we try and put everything in a 21st century mind. But if we do believe that extraterrestrials have been here for eons, they would have came after us when our weapons were spears, bows and arrows, and those what are those big launchers with the rocks? Catapults. That's the word I'm looking for. They wouldn't have come up after us or waited for us to advance technologically to take us over. That's why I have such a tough time with the whole alien threat phenomena. It doesn't work for me. All right. What's your favorite current alien cases of modern times, 45 to 2020? I think two of them that are so underrated is Stefan Mikulik, the Falcon Lake incident in Manitoba, 1967. And then a few months later, Shag Harbor. Experiencers-wise, I think I would love to know more about Chris Bledsoe. I would love Samantha Mowat to get the more press than what she currently gets. Hi, Whit Helton. Do we have any Bigfoot shows coming up? I'll answer that in a second. Those ones are incredible. Phoenix Lights, 65,000 plus people were eyewitnesses to that, and they are all still treated like shit about it. So I would love to see that one investigated more. I really would. But those are all cases that we're not going to really see. So there's three of them. Bigfoot shows, Whit Helton. Let me check here for you, buddy. Bigfoot shows. Which week are we on? We're right here. Monday with Butch Witkowski. And then we go into July. Lon Strickler, Monday, July 5th. We're going to talk Makili Mbembe on the 8th with Alex Mistretta. Yeah, right now I'm going to tell you it's a real heavy UFO type month coming up in July because we got to be prepared for any type of news that comes out. So it's not that I'm trying to dodge the subject, but that's just sometimes it works like that. I just want to make sure that our schedule right now, throughout everything right now, I put my team on alert that, our guests could change at any last minute right now because of the ideas that if anything breaks, we got to get reaction like we did today with this panel. We got to be able to get that reaction. So I am cognizant and aware of it, and so is my team, and we will get on that. I promise you. Let's see here. Got Olin. All right. Satellites in the sky are nice. I'm totally satellite gazing tomorrow night. What should? It is chic. It is chic. Yeah, I thought so. Is tonight as good as GNR? No. When you get Paradise City Live, no. What is my favorite UFO alien cases? Hi, Ambassador. For me personally, it's my own. But publicly, Shag Harbor and Stefan Mikulik and the Phoenix Lights. Really enjoy those. Let's see here. Let's see. NR Pie, how are you? Welcome to our chat. Oh, you must be Canadian if you're quoting CTV. Yeah. Taco Bell or Tim Hortons Donuts? Taco Bell every day of the week, except Sundays. I'll have a donut. No, I don't even eat a lot of donuts anymore. I really don't. Oh, excuse me. What is that? Oh, lots. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm pulling for the Habs, Brian. I'm pulling for the Habs because I want to see the cup come home. I've known Brendan Gallagher since he was like 13 years old, 12 years old, because his dad worked for the Vancouver Giants. And I really, really want to see that kid get a cup. Yeah, all of our listeners, if you want more of this coverage coming up at the top of the hour, head over to the Third Phase of Moon channel. They have a special there that's going to be going on, so I highly recommend that. They're hard workers, the Cousins brothers, and you know what? I think if you guys want to head over there, that would be great. As for me, I'm going to start shutting this down. I don't want to because we still have 272 people watching. But I'm going to be honest, I am worn out. Hi, Danny. How are you? Chill Farm, good to see you. Crow Creek, nice to have you here, my friend. Maya Rayo, welcome to the channel. What is this? knowing what Elizondo knows, what new professions are likely to be created, I think we're going to see new positions regarding. I could see it. It's almost like taking MUFON and putting it under a government branch. That's what I see happening. That's what I totally see happening. Is taking the MUFON brand where they have, excuse me, people who are dealing with military sightings, people who are dealing with FAA sightings, nautical sightings, and then personal sightings, as well as when we get into more of the ET contact, there's going to be that as well. You know, that's what I see happening. Totally see that happening. Anything else? I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for tuning us in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to the plethora of super chats tonight. We've never had a night like this. Very, very thankful to have each and every one of you tuning on in. I know we hit 404 tonight. That's our brand new record. And, you know, it was an incredible night. Your enthusiasm for a show like this was second to none. And we're glad that we could deliver it to you. Remember, if you are new, we are here 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. I go Monday through Friday. Lynn Wallington does Saturdays. Michael W. Hall on Sundays. And we're always here. We're always here. We're right here for you. You don't have to tune anywhere else. Or if you do, that's your choice too. We don't mind, but come say hello to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to each and every one of the veterans out there who is listening tonight. We love you. We care about you. And thank you for your service. To all our regulars in the chat room, in the chat rooms and on Twitter tonight, you guys were amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you guys bring to this show every night. It keeps me motivated. And much love. I will talk to you guys all on Monday. Don't forget Lynn Wallington tomorrow night. And on Sunday, Michael W. Hall. I will be back on Monday with, let me see here. Oh, hold on. I'll be back Monday with Butch Witkowski. And yeah, have a good one. Thank you for your time. Good night.